All right. Hello, everyone. Hi, this is Sherry Sims, founder of Black Career Women's Network, and thank you for tuning in for part 2 of our Coaches Roundtable. We have 5 new amazing emerging career coaches and business coaches in their own right who are doing fabulous things in their own cities, but also virtually and locally. So just wanted to share with you, for those of you who are watching for the first time, you're asking, why is Black Career Women's Network doing a Coaches Roundtable? Well, for me, I'm a person who likes to get people together. And so more or less, I think what is more to me come like a coaches alliance, where we're getting Black women who are in this space together to help empower each other. And then also you guys just seeing us all collaborate and being in the same space. So that's really hugely important to me. So what I want to do now is go ahead and kind of introduce the group of collective coaches here tonight. But first, if you're not familiar with Black Career Women's Network, we are a career development organization. We support the professional development of Black women across the US and nationally, of course, all over. Our goal really is to bridge the gap to have mentoring access, coaching, webinars like this, and being able to support you in your career development overall. So that is what we're here for. You can find us at bcwnetwork.com. And of course, we're all over social media as well. So I'm gonna go ahead and jump right in. I'm gonna start with Miss Dory Ann right next to guys. She's on your right, on my left. And we're gonna have her introduce herself. Before you do that, Dory Ann, let me give a couple of housekeeping rules. For those of you who are wanting to ask a question to any of our coaches, you can either do it 2 ways. You can ask the question in the chat box where we can answer that, or feel free to raise your hand and we'll open up the audio, and that way you can talk directly to groups. Just wanted to let you know that. In the meantime, everyone is muted and will stay muted until you raise your hand if you decide that you want to talk instead of type, because sometimes that's sometimes you got to get it all out, and everything that you can't talk with, type it all. So Phyllis says, hello, Sherry, you're absolutely radiant. Oh, girl, thank you, girl, my skincare. Coconut oil and coffee bean grinds, girl. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. So Dory Ann, take it away, lady.
Hey everyone, my name is Dorianne St. Fleur and I'm super happy to be here. Thank you so much, Sherry, for the invitation. I am a leadership and career development coach for ambitious women of color, as well as a consultant for tech companies who are ready to create anti-racist workplaces. So I'm currently based on the East Coast. I live in the Bay Area of on the West Coast, sorry. I live in the Bay Area of California. I actually moved here a year ago and super excited to be here.
All right, so Miss Nicole, you are up next. Oh, Dory Ann, share with them why you feel like tonight's conversation is important.
Yes. So I think talking about career empowerment and what we need to be doing as Black women in the workplace to make sure that we are leveling up and using our resources, et cetera, is important 365 all the time, but specifically in this climate that we're in right now, I think if we think about resistance, I think Black women succeeding is a big part of that. That's resisting our existence in these spaces and moving up the ladder and getting paid and breaking cycles of economic kind of shackles that are on our generations, and all of that stuff is resistance. And so let's talk about it. Let's resist. Let's infiltrate these corporate spaces and infiltrate the C-suite. And so I'm all about it. All
right. Thank you for sharing. Miss Nicole Webb. You are up next, lady.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Nicole Webb. I'm the owner and founder of NK Webb Group, which provides human resources consulting services to companies and professional development services to individuals. I'm a 16-year HR professional, and by day, I am the Deputy Director of Equal Employment Opportunity. So this work that I do, I'm very passionate about it. I use my knowledge and expertise to fuel individuals so that they can understand the workplace game and how to navigate it. The thing that I love about Black Career Women's Network is that it gives us as Black women a sense of community, showing that we can come together, share our resources with one another so that we can all grow and advance in the workplace. So tonight's conversation is definitely needed. I ask that you all please take notes and take advantage of the information that is coming from each and every one of us, because I am certain at some point along your career journey, you will be able to use it. So thank you, Sherry, so much for having me.
Absolutely, Nicole. And look, it's long overdue, right? All right. Okay, Miss Letitia, you are up next, lady.
All right. Good evening, everyone. I'm so glad to be here with you all tonight. And Sherry, thank you for inviting me. My name is Letitia Bird. I'm the CEO of Bird Career Consulting, a career consultant agency based out of Charlotte, North Carolina. I started this work 5 years ago, and outside of offering resume writing and LinkedIn writing and interview coaching, I also do or offer career coaching for women of color in the workplace. My coaching centers around the 3 C's. That's clarity, confidence, and control. I realized when I first started my business as a resume writer that my clients didn't really know where they wanted to go next. They didn't have that clarity, and they also didn't have that confidence. So we would create these beautiful resumes, but they still didn't really have the tools that they needed to succeed. And so that's how I really got into the 3 C's and coaching. What else? That's pretty much it. Oh, and why are we here tonight, or what makes tonight so important? You know, I think that we are all very passionate about, making sure our clients, especially Black women, are succeeding in the workplace. I've realized through my work that a lot of us feel lonely. You know, we might be the only one at work, that looks like us. And so we feel like our situation is isolated, but it's not. You know, we are all so ambitious, but I don't know, sometimes we just don't get to break that ceiling. And that's not because we have a lack of ambition or smarts or skills. It's really because there's a lot of systemic barriers that are in our way. So that's why I'm passionate about being here tonight and being in this space with you all, so we can come together and talk through solutions.
Okay. All right, good. Thank you, Letitia. Kanika, you are up next, lady.
Good evening, everyone. How you guys doing? My name is Connie Catawba. I am from the Washington, D.C. area. I am the author and the CEO of Career Rehab. So Career Rehab is a company that I started in addition with my book to help people rehab their careers. I really am passionate about shifting the mindset from being an employee to being a brand. I think it's so important right now in this climate, me being a woman in tech by default, I do work for the federal government. There's not a lot of women that look like me in the tech industry. And sometimes we have adopted this employee mindset, and we need to take back ownership of our career and know that we are brands and we can stand out in the workplace as Black women. And we don't have to subject ourselves to conforming to what the employer's brand is just because we're validating ourselves through a job offer. So for me, I am so passionate really about helping people shift their mindset. So that's what Career Rehab is all about. I kind of, like most of the career coaches here on the call, have started out with doing resumes. I was a resume writer in the DC area, and I helped a lot of people land government jobs. But what I've learned is that they couldn't tell the story of their career. They didn't really understand how to be a brand and tell the story of their career. So I've kind of shifted into being an author for entrepreneur, and I have a book called Career Rehab. And I also am focused on helping other people within the tech industry to also realize their dreams too, because there are not a lot of people that look like me. It's only 2% of African Americans that work at companies like Microsoft and Dell and Twitter. So I am very passionate about, advocating for people of color in tech, but also women. Tonight is really a good opportunity for us to turn our mindsets to shifting our anxiety into accomplishments. I really want us to take this time to flip the script on our stress and to realize that there's still an opportunity for all that's going on in the world, for us to realize that we can still have a very successful career, even through all the things that we're seeing on the media. So I really want us to really figure out, how do we shift our emotions to still feeling the pain and going through our emotions, but also figuring out how can we come out successful? How can we come out courageous and on top, even during these very trying times? So that is me. I'm a wife, no children. Hope to be a mother. Some of you guys are mothers here on the call. So I definitely am trying to navigate that journey as well into motherhood. So, you know, trying to do a business and a career and be a mom. I'll be looking out for some good tips from you guys out here on the call, but that's me.
All right, Miss Quanisha, last but never least, lady.
Hey girl, hey everybody. That's how I always greet folks. My name is Connie Shagreen. I am the founder and CEO of Black Women CEO, and many people know me around the globe as the confidence strategist for Black women entrepreneurs. Black Women CEO is the only organization combining proven research and culturally relevant coaching with proven strategies to help Black women to elevate in their confidence and emancipate their earning power. Put money in the chat. I feel like, yeah, money girl, right? So I actually started out with my company was actually Black Women Rise, and we moved to Black Women CEO because I was really interested in the mentorship gap that was impacting Black women. When we looked at the research, many Black women were in the lower level positions, right? Not in leadership. And as I continued to do my company, I actually started to see that there were many women who, like actually some of the speakers here, right? You have a parallel career, like you're starting, or you're a parallelpreneur, right? You have a job and you're growing your business. And if you don't know, you may have heard those great statistics that Black women are the fastest growing group of entrepreneurs, right? But what they don't tell you is that we make the least average gross revenues. I know we're going to talk about that, so I won't say what the number even is yet, right? And so although we're seeing, it's not really a max exodus, right? We're just seeing this large number. You know, our role is to really help women get a handle on that and really, you know, have the skills, the mindset. I call it the 3 C's to our confidence, clarity, and courage to get out there and ask for top dollar, right, for their expertise. And so I see this event as important because, as we know, due to wage inequality that are impacting Black women in our lifetime, we lose up to $1 million. Right? $1 million. So not only do we need to know how to be a proactive contributor to our success in the workplace, right? And I always say, you know, regardless of bias, right? But we are being overlooked even though we're highly credentialed and highly educated, right? So yes, we have to know how to move up, but how do we also take charge of our lives, right? Through having a business, through entrepreneurship, so that we can see that wage gap, right, minimize, and we actually move into our own level of economic empowerment. So I think it's great that we're talking about both of these pieces, right? So that you all can be successful, have the lives that you desire, own your time, right? And achieve that financial freedom that you like are desiring in your life.
Well, thank you for the intro, Quanisha. I know we're going to definitely be talking about that. And remember, again, viewers, if you want to ask our coaches a question, you feel free to enter your questions into the webinar chat box or raise your hand and we'll open up the audio so you can ask the question live. So of course, we cannot start off the Coaches Roundtable without talking about and acknowledging the climate of what's been going on for the last couple of days. I think it is important to talk about it a little bit briefly and sharing perspectives from each of you in reference to how you're feeling. And then not only that, because you have clients that you work with on a daily basis, whether they're business clients or career coaching clients that you have that you're talking to, and what are they thinking? What are they feeling right now? Just kind of share a little bit about, you know, how you're feeling about the climate, how are some of your clients feeling right now? What are some of the things that you're doing to support your clients right now in this climate, you know, as we get through all of this?
Do you just want us to jump in?
Don't.
Okay.
I'm listening. We all listen. We waiting. Go ahead. Let's start.
Okay. So, one thing I'm very conscious of is asking people about their feelings. My background's in social work. I'm a certified coach, life and master life coach. So we talk about feelings a lot in Black Women CEO because we believe you got to do that inner work to do the outer work. So if your inner ain't right, or thrown off, you're not going to do your outer work. And with everything that was happening, the intensity, and as I was checking in with our community, sisters were saying, I'm tired, right? And it was like a bone tired, a general sense of loss and overwhelm and anger, rage, right? that that's what they were expressing. And I was feeling those same emotions myself. And I kind of explained to everybody, we're grieving, right? In a way, like it's a heightened sense of grief. That's how big my emotions were. So one thing that I decided to do kind of Sunday night, I was like, we're calling out Black, right? All week. So at Black Women CEO, we canceled our training. We canceled our coaching, free and paid, right? And we decided to actually take this time to invest in resources and planning a sister circle that's actually happening on Thursday to actually tend to this emotional need, right? So we have mental health experts coming in, healing experts coming in to help facilitate conversations. And it's all Black women. We ain't letting nobody else in, right? So that we can really not only name our emotions, process it, and then know how to proceed from there. Because I didn't feel good doing Tuesday, let's talk about sales strategy, knowing that everybody wasn't okay, right? So we decided to call out Black, shut it down in order to really speak to where we are right now, honor that for myself, our community, and our team. So that's what we're kind of doing in this climate.
Yeah, you touched on something so important when you talked about like this collective grief, and how I've been talking about it with my clients is like it's this collective trauma as well, right? And so how I'm supporting my clients, they're in the workplace right now, and so they have to show up to work, and sometimes they're no one is saying anything, or they're not sending out communications, or they feel like people just don't care. And then we have other people who every 5 seconds, someone is asking, how you doing? How you doing? How you doing? And they're like, oh my gosh, can I process my feelings alone? Leave me alone. So I think it's all across the map. And so for me, it's about meeting each of my clients where they are and asking. So Quanisha, so agree with what you said about the feelings. Like, even I'm not a life coach, I'm not a therapist, but I'm always talking about feelings with my clients. How do you feel? How does that feel? So that we can then create a plan around that. Calling in Black, I'm all about it. So if that's what people need to do, I'm counseling people through, my background is in HR as well, employee relations and all of it. So I counsel them through their process of, do you need to take a medical leave and how to navigate that? So I think it's really about just meeting everyone where they are and then creating those strategies to help them navigate. It's a tough time, and some people like just need different resources and tools than other people. So it's not a one size fits all.
No, I like that. Go ahead, Letitia.
Okay. I'm curious to kind of hear the other coaches' thoughts as well, but you know, I'm taking off like the CEO hat and just speaking to my clients, Black woman to Black woman. And I'm telling them like, I'm not good either. I'm right here with you. I feel a range of emotions as well. A lot of anger, a whole lot of anger that I am trying to working through processing. But the most important thing for me, kind of like what was said, is just showing up for your clients and meeting them where they are. I do a lot of job search strategy coaching. And so usually on these sessions, I'm like, all right, where we at? What we applying to? Who you talking to? You on LinkedIn? What's up with that? But lately it's not even that. It's, are you okay? And are you giving yourself grace at this time? It's frustrating because I know that a lot of my clients are having to show up in a space where they don't really feel seen and valued and heard, but they're also expected to perform. And so I'm encouraging them to take time off if they need to, or to say, look, I am not going to turn my video on for this meeting, or look, I'm not even going to do this meeting today, and really just speaking up for what it is that they need to be able to get through this.
That's good, Letitia. I like that.
Yeah.
So I work for the federal government. I work 1 block away from the White House. I work for the Department of Treasury, that agency that's giving out those stimulus checks. So I've been in the federal government space my entire career. So I've been through, different administrations and different feelings and emotions every 4 years, every 8 years. So I get it. So I have taken my, as others have said, I've taken my hat off as being like, go, 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 and apply and go hard with all of that, to really allowing people to feel how they want to feel. I feel a lot differently about it because I work in the federal government. So my perspective is really, every day I will walk to work and I'll walk past the White House. So, you know, there's different emotions that I have because some of my clients work for the federal government and some of them don't work for the federal government. So I have to meet them a little bit differently than I have to meet them with the private sector employees because they're dealing with different emotions based off of an administration.
Yeah.
Right. So, you know, coaching the federal government employees and giving them an opportunity to feel how they want to feel about what's coming in November and what's going on under their job. They've been under attack for the last 3.5 years due to the fact that they've been under an administration that wasn't supporting them. So some of them have been feeling all of this for the last 3 years due to senior executives that have been picked that are political appointees. So this just added just more anger and more frustration to their plate that I've already been dealing with as a federal government employee and what some of my other clients have been going through. One thing I did with one client, she's in Charlotte, she wants to go to private sector. We've adjusted her job search strategy. She doesn't feel comfortable with doing temporary based contract jobs right now in this climate. And that's okay. And I told her that was okay. So I think adjusting their job search strategy to doing things that is not so temporary or contract based right now, if that's going to make them feel more comfortable, I'm meeting them where they are. And I'm okay with saying, hey, let's reevaluate your strategy and let's get you a more permanent situation instead of just, you know, looking at the money.
No, I think that's good. I think you guys are, you know, everyone's dealing with it, you know, a little different. I know for me, I'm exhausted. Your girl is tired, okay? Tired, you know, but still pushing through, right? You know, I kind of come from an area where you just gotta keep pushing through. But I do think that doing things like this, I think is important as far as, you know, what we're doing in BCWN. I was already in the middle of kind of revamping some things with some of our programs. So we're still plugging away with that. I haven't stopped with that piece. It's like, we got to push on through that so we can, you know, offer things in a different perspective. But I sometimes think about when you structure things, sometimes you kind of have to scratch it all like Quanisha's doing. She's just shutting it all down, right? And for me, it's like, I looked at currently, what are we offering? And like, now, what do I need to offer right now? So maybe I don't offer some of the things that we offer in the play, like Quanisha's kind of stopping it for a little while and just kind of shift gears and open up yourself in another way. And that's what we're doing here at BCW. And two, I mean, for me, I need to take time off for me. If I'm burnt out, there's no BCWN. You know, if I'm not taking care of me, then I can't be on, you know, doing these great things with a roundtable like you all. So for me, for the last 3 months, even since the shelter in place and kind of seeing things lead up to what has happened with the riots, I just really just taking a lot of time for myself. And that's one of the best things that probably could have happened to me was the fact that they were like, stay home. I wasn't staying home. You know, so this is definitely has been good for me. So that way I can show up and be present in a whole nother way. So that's where I'm at, and that's where we are with BCWN. So we do have a couple of questions. I know you guys see those in the chat. We have Christy DeMarcus, I think. Hello, Christy. Thank you for viewing. She's asking, how many coaches are MBE certified, and has it added value to their businesses?
I am currently working on mine in the state of Maryland. So I have all my paperwork and everything, but COVID just kind of slowed me down in terms of my deadline, but I'm in the process.
All right. Anyone else have an MBE or possibly considering it? Or if you have considered it and decided not to, why did you decide not to?
So I will be applying. I'm sorry. I think somebody else.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I will be applying this year because actually the process is changing. I think in like June or July. Oh wait, we are in June. Hold on. So I really got to get on that. I think for me, I didn't apply earlier because I wasn't really looking to do. I do organizational work in my company. I do cultural competency work still. My background's in nonprofit administration, but I wasn't really looking to do organizational work, but to me, it's something good to have so that if you ever do want to switch gears, if you want to get a contract, either federally or with your city, right, they do prioritize that. So I think the value is knowing that you would qualify, right? You'll have more opportunities in that way. So it never hurts, right, to do it in that way. So, but I don't have, and I obviously have been able to grow my business and do well. But one thing I do want to look at is licensing the work that I do. So 2 organizations are doing it as a leadership for Black women in companies. So once again, it would be good to have that because, you know, they like to say, right, that we got MBE and they prioritize that.
Don't you agree? It really does depend on the, you know, the division, direction of where you wanting your business to go and expand to see if it's going to add value, I believe. You know, because for some who may not want to be in that space where they're bidding for contracts and things like that, it may not be, you know, beneficial for them. So I think it all depends on just evaluating where you want your business to go. All right, next question is from Kian. She says, I have a master's degree in IO psychology and have written, is it industrial organization? I think so. Have written 2 books as well. What suggestions do you have on entering the HR field and career/business coaching?
So when it comes to entering the HR field, what exactly are you interested in doing work-wise? Because that will depend on exactly which strategy you'll use to get into HR. There's so many different segments. You have recruitment, you have compensation, you have leadership and development. So, you know, a little bit more detail would help in giving you, you know, guidance on how to enter.
So Keon, you might want to type that in or maybe raise your hand so you can kind of ask the question so you can elaborate a little bit more. Christy, part 2 to Christy's question, she's the one who asked about the MBE certification. Okay. Are you working with a third party to help you with the process of doing it or on your own, Nicole?
I'm actually doing it on my own. I'm pretty good with researching what the requirements are and gathering my information to submit it. So I'm in compliance. So it kind of helps. I have like a kind of cheat aspect. So I'm doing pretty well on my own, you know, getting everything together.
Okay. Now, Tara Marshall asks, are the panelists open to connecting with us on LinkedIn?
Absolutely.
Yes, of course.
Absolutely. You can find me under my name, Nicole K. Webb. So I'll accept. As long as you have a picture and it seems legit.
So yeah, at the end, they're going to share the social media handles and all that at the end, you guys. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, why would LinkedIn helps part of their business, okay? It's great.
And I feel like that's what this is about, you know, we should be networking. I know that we've all kind of shifted to doing this virtual networking, virtual events thing, but we definitely ought to make sure we're connecting even beyond and after these events.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And Sherry, I wanted to answer the last question you asked to the group because I didn't get a chance to share. So let me know when I can share my perspective. No, it's fine. Just let me know.
Let's go ahead and jump in and do that now. And then we have someone who has had their hand raised to ask.
I was just going to say, you know, for myself, when it comes to the current climate, like yourself, I've been pretty quiet in terms of not sharing too much of my thoughts and my feelings online, because I feel like with a lot of social media platforms, you kind of sometimes feel pressured to respond or give your, you know, your standpoint on what things are or what they should be. And for me personally, I just had to mentally rest, you know, and just take a deep breath and dissect everything that's going on. I shared with the ladies earlier before we went live, I have a 16-month-old son. So to see that video footage of what happened to that gentleman, I'm just constantly thinking about my brothers, my nephews, you know, uncles, and my son. And just thinking to myself, why is this still going on after all this time? What part can I do to make things better? Because the reality is the only thing that I can truly control is the work that I can do to contribute to furthering things forward in a more positive way. And with the work that I do with human resources, equal employment opportunity, that is exactly, you know, what I do. So in moving to the next part of my point in terms of how I've been guiding my clients, the companies that I do work with, my main advisement to them has been, do not avoid the conversation, acknowledge that it needs to take place. So don't avoid, acknowledge. So don't have these employees coming back into the workplace or, you know, virtually working, expecting business as usual. These things are going on. So do the right thing and acknowledge what's going on with them. Call your EAP folks, get them on the lines, make them available. This is an investment in your workforce. These folks are going through things. They're dealing with things that are going to impact their performance. So if you want to do the right thing, don't avoid the conversation, acknowledge that it needs to take place. So that's kind of where I am currently.
Yeah, I did share a social media post earlier, I think it was yesterday, about that, about people returning to work, and you know, some of their employers may not acknowledge it, and it's okay. There's other people that they can talk to, or, you know, it's okay to talk about it at work. It's okay for you to access and use your EAP benefits, things like that. So, I mean, you have to have those conversations, and you just got to continue to just speak up in the way that you know that can be impactful. Because again, you know, even if you reach one person, you know, you're being effective, right? You know, you don't have to affect the masses, but you, as long as you're affecting someone that can help to create change.
Absolutely.
All right, Miss Lisa Medley is on the line. Lisa was one of our coaches from last week's Coaches Roundtable. So we're going to go ahead and have her open up the line so she can ask a question. All right, let me unmute you. I think I did. Maybe I didn't. Hold on. Well, Lisa, I'm trying to unmute you. Maybe I think it's you have to unmute yourself. Are you unmuted, ma'am? Y'all, I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing.
Oh, I don't think she
just wrote it was a mistake.
Yeah.
Okay, there she goes. All right. So Keon is on the line. She actually has a question, so we're going to go ahead and chime her in. I hope I'm saying your name right. And let's see if we can get her unmuted. And why is she not muted? There she goes. All right.
Hello.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm great. So I know we did see the first part of your question in reference to getting into HR. So go ahead and elaborate a little further for us.
Well, to simply put it, I am open to any area that I can enter into at this point with HR. I know I have a higher level of degree, but I'm lacking the experience, although, and I shouldn't say that, although everything can be tied to human resources, but I'm open to a generalist position. I'm open to training or organizational development. It's just breaking into the field is hard for me.
I can jump in. So
Okay.
I think the first thing I would say is you should narrow it down. So saying that you're open to anything, like HR, as Nicole said, is huge. There's so many different things. And so the first thing I would say is to, whether it's through research, informational interviews, going and stalking job descriptions and digging in, figure out, is it recruiting? Is it learning and development? Is it employee relations? Is it talent management? Like, it's a lot. So figure out which one. Then when you figure out which one, you can then create a brand around that. So you mentioned your degrees, all that is great. In addition to that, though, we need to see experience. And don't get me wrong, experience doesn't have to always mean you've been doing this work for 5 years. It can also mean I'm a thought leader in this space. Look at these pieces, look at this content that I've created. It can mean I've volunteered, look at what I've done. It can mean I've done this major project in the work that I'm doing that utilizes the skills that you're using here. For myself personally, I transitioned from being an HR business partner. First of all, I transitioned from operations into HR, zero experience, quote unquote, but kind of doing the things that I talked about with you, was able to do that. Then I transitioned from being an HR business partner into being a diversity and inclusion specialist. And I literally was able to do that by using one project that I worked on for like a 6-month span, and created a whole brand, resume, everything, LinkedIn, around that one project, and had multiple offers to become a D&I person. And so it's literally about understanding specifically what you want to do and building your brand around that. The IO psychology degree, great. What is a project you can do? How can you show that you have the specific skills there? And one more thing I'll say is, see like of the different aspects of HR that we talked about, as you research and as you figure it out, what would easily translate, what could your skills in the IO space, which part of HR could that most easily translate into? Also think about that. For example, would it be easy to be a recruiter because you have IO psychology? Why, yes or no, why or why not? So figure out what makes the most sense, and then pedal to the metal, don't let up. This is my experience, this is my brand, this is what I do, and show us how those skills translate.
Hey, let me just add, oh, sorry. No, I just wanted to add to that. Everything she said, ditto times 10. And also I would say, position yourself for that promotion that you're looking for, meaning get into the same rooms with folks who are doing the work that you want to do. So they have what's called SHRM, the Society for Human Resource Management. Many HR professionals like myself, I am a member. It's maybe $180 a year to be a part of SHRM. You'll get, monthly magazines, emails with different updates about HR laws and conferences and events that may be taking place in city and states, close to you. So I think that's a great resource for you to have, so you can start investing in your development pertaining to HR. Also, they have what's called the National Association for African American Human Resources Professionals. It's NAAA HR. And in most cities, they usually have like quarterly meetings. And I used to attend them a couple years back, and that's how I got to know a lot of the HR professionals in the Maryland area. So wherever you're located, although you're not currently in HR, see if you can research on their website if they have a group in your area, and you can go as a guest. I believe it's free if you go as a guest first time around. Like I said, you can kind of connect with those HR professionals, see what they have going on. And a lot of times that's where your opportunities come from. Who folks in those rooms, they have hiring authority. So you definitely, again, position yourself for promotion by putting yourself in the rooms with the people that you need to connect with.
Yeah, and that she makes a very good point. And so when you, like, for a lot of local HR organizations, in order for you to join them, you have to be a member of SHRM, right? Mm-hmm. So when you join the national chapter of SHRM, then you join your local chapter of SHRM, your local chapter, which is an affiliate. And then, of course, when you get into the local chapter, then you need to get into that local chapter and navigate and get on a committee. I don't care what committee it is. It could be Town Acquisition Committee. It could be, the D&I committee or something like that, and get involved with them. Because again, just like Nicole says, that's where you're going to find your opportunities to build the relationships and then get in, right?
Absolutely.
And if there are job openings, which they will have them, okay, and then they'll consider you because you're part of their organization. So they'll speak up for you or you'll be the referral for that job. So that's probably one of the best strategic ways in HR for you to start. I would start there. Now, it may be tough because I know for SHRM, some of them like for you to have experience before you, pay a membership, but volunteering is good enough. So
mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's good enough. Absolutely. All right. I know Cornisha wanted to answer Keon's question about career and business coaching.
Yes, is Keon still on the line?
Keon, are you still on?
Yes, I'm still here, just muted.
Okay, so hi. And just for clarification, when you say career and business coaching, are you looking to do that as your own independent business? Or I know you were talking about HR, so are you looking to do that still under an organizational umbrella?
I was looking to do it independently, and that's just kind of my backup plan for now, which ties into just my topics around I've written. So right now I'm just brainstorming and getting information and building from there.
Okay. I just wanted to have that clarification because it would change what I talked about. So really what I'm going to say is for everyone who's looking to start a business, or if you started your business and you're like, I ain't make no money, or I'm at a cap, you want to look at, I have 5 things, but I'll say them really fast, Sherry, I promise. So the first one is that we can be very egocentric when it comes to starting a business. It's like, I do psychology. How do I make some money doing psychology? I'm a writer. How do I make money doing a writer? And business is not about you, right? So your gift is not about you. Businesses are there to provide a solution. So we want to think about what is a problem that we want to solve and for whom, right? And then how do we use our gifts in service of that, right? So 1, your gift's not about you, right? And then 2, what is the problem, right, that folks are having? And I always say, really think about, like, what are people staying up at night around the topic that you want to address, right? And then what is your solution for that, right? And of course, there's more to the solution, like building it out and figure out what that is, but there's more to that. But really and then we use our talents and gifts in service of delivering, right, that solution, or helping them to get to that desire that they have. So that was 1 and 2. The third thing in starting a business or starting to get out there is really showing your thought leadership, right? There is nothing new under the sun. So I think that comes up like, oh, everyone's a business coach, but it's, what is your particular take on business coaching? Or like I said, that particular audience, you could say, I like to work with male business owners who have, let me just give you one example. Like one of my clients wants to work with cannabis business owners, right? So, what is their particular issue? What are their mistakes that they're making? Like, how can you speak to just that particular audience? And by sharing your thought leadership, like write an article on LinkedIn, right, you will begin to attract people and build an audience, because you need an audience to make money, right? It comes through people. And then the other thing I wanted to share is starting to do your work in the real world, right? Start to actually pilot your work. So once again, if you get clear on who you want to help, right, around one particular thing, and like, I think it was Dorian, I'm sorry, I wasn't watching who particularly talked about, what specifically do you want to do in HR? It's the same thing, like what type of career coaching or what type of business coaching. And when you get clear about that, start to pilot it, right? You can connect with your network saying, hey, I'm actually going into business coaching for people who have cannabis companies. And if that's something that you're interested in, I'd love to talk to you to see if and how I can help you, right? You can say, I'm gonna help 3 people for free, right? Because you get to explore, you get to see what's working or what's not. Or like I say, charge people something, right? Because, when they put something down, they're more invested. But once again, you can just say, I'm gonna do 3 people for free, right? Not everybody. So that you can test your idea, get real world feedback, and then start to refine from there. So that's what I would suggest. Once again, for anyone who's looking to start a business, we need to be clear on the problem that we're solving, for whom, right? Using our gifts in service of that, starting to share our thought leadership, right? So we get known, right, for our expertise, and then start piloting your work, because that's going to build your confidence. That's going to help you get your clarity, right? And also your courage, right, to actually start getting out there and build that muscle, so then you start doing bigger things. So that's everybody. I just taught y'all how to do business. And so if you are, and Kiana, I'll just check in with you in a second. And so once again, like I said, if you're not seeing the revenue, or you started your business, right? But I always say, if you haven't made money, you have an expensive hobby, right? It could be because you didn't hone in, right? You didn't hone in, or you didn't start piloting, right? So then you're talking to everybody instead of like really at the heart of who is that ideal client that you want to talk to, and talking to their problem and their desires, right? And letting them know that you can bridge that gap for them.
I like it.
Can I just add really quickly, like,
Sure.
yes, Quanisha, preach.
Yes.
And this stuff that she just talked about for business, please know this directly translates to careers as well. The reason why my clients be killing it all over the place is because we look at ourselves as brands. And so target audience, i.e. your target kind of companies and the target roles. Thought leadership exactly translates as well. So for those of you listening, don't tune out because she's talking about a business. This is also about how you transition, how you land that dream job inside of a pandemic, how you get a $40,000 raise. Like, this is happening for people right now in this pandemic, and those tips directly translate.
Yeah, I was gonna add on to what you just said too, about like, we talk a lot about business and entrepreneurship, but it's the same thing within in having a career. You are a subject matter expert. You are a product. You are a service. You go to an organization, you give them and you add value. I think so many people have been focusing on just laying the foundation with a resume and a LinkedIn profile only, that they're missing out on white papers, creating their own blogs, creating their own books, doing their own TED Talks, being able to be a brand about their career and funnel that information out into social media. Because a lot of hiring managers and recruiters, and they're looking at this information. Everyone has a resume, everyone has a LinkedIn profile, but real brands in the workplace, they are standing out because they're showing up in a way that's different than everyone else. I'm a woman in tech, but I have a blog, I have a website, I blog for Glassdoor, I've been featured in all these different places, but I'm talking about technology solutions in a way that's translating to my experience, my education, and my expertise in a way that's different than someone that only has a resume and a LinkedIn profile. Mm-hmm. So I think it's so important in this climate, this is an opportunity to create content that could really help you stand out online, and it could really help also translate into your business as well.
So we talked about this last week, is this is really all about, visibility, right? These are techniques, these are strategies to increase your visibility. And we talked about this last week about, and one of my things is, when I was, coaching women in BCWN, is that, stop trying to brand yourself within your job, and you need to brand yourself within your industry, right? That's what expands your market. That's what makes you more and more marketable. That's what keeps you working, right? It's expanding your brand within get known in your industry, right?
Yeah, right. Because we have to market ourselves like ads, the same way that Deloitte, Facebook, Twitter, all these big companies that everybody wants to work with, they have advertisements. We have to market ourselves like ads. We have to accomplish dominating success through ourselves, not through just trying to conform and being pressed to work for companies that one day they care about you, the next day they don't. You want to be able to get to a point where you can just leave if they don't care that much about you, because you have become a subject matter expert in your own right, and you're not conforming and just being pressed for their job offer because their company X or whatever. So I think that's what brands are. Employees, they have to shift their mindset to know that in this climate, it's important to be visible.
Yeah, I always tell, I shared this last week, and I always talk about this when we're having conversations at BCW. I always talk about putting an expiration date in your job.
Yeah, dump it. I already know. Yeah.
Because they will put one on it.
Can I ask Keon a quick question? Keon, I just wanted to know how that landed for you since you asked the question. And then I have a quick follow-up question. So I just wanted to check in and see how that was for you. I think you might be muted.
Yes, the information.
Yeah, we just talked about the business coaching, career coaching, entering that. Did that resonate with you?
Yes, and that's something that I'm aware of and I've considered as far as, why do I want to do X and who is it for? So I completely understand that, and all the information was very, very helpful. Perfect tips. And I'll look into it further as far as looking into the organizations and starting from there.
Awesome. And my last question to you, have you ever run a business before?
No, I have not.
Okay, so my last point, this is for everybody, is that we want to operate in integrity, right? So if you're like, I'm a business coach, but it's like, have you run a business? Have you made money? And it doesn't have to be a business coach where you're helping someone to run their business. Like, for example, I have a client who's a therapist, and she's a business therapist. So she helps people deal with the fear, anxiety related to business. But she's like, if you want to learn how to do business, go talk to Cornisha, right? And she actually just became one of our business coaches to help people with a lot of the mindset work. So once again, it doesn't mean you can't do it. And once you want to get that experience, so that everyone, you want to be in integrity, right? So if you're like, I never helped anyone with career, I don't even have a high level position, right? I've never run a business. We do want to think about that. And once again, this is anything that you want to do, is that, are you operating in integrity? in that way, or do you need to go get more experience in those things? So I'm not saying you can never have a business around something you haven't done, but maybe you got to go do an internship, right? Maybe you have to go be an apprentice, right? And it's not always about going to school and getting a credential. It's that real world experience so that you can really stand on saying, like, I get these results, right? I help to facilitate these outcomes and feel good when someone's paying you for that. And so we always want to be in integrity in that way.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I would say that I would, my advice to you, since you've never run a business before, is to take someone's incubator, set up for an incubator, accelerator, and learn the basics, the foundational things that you need. And they can teach you about marketing and branding and, how, you need to establish the business and laying that basic foundation. You want to do that in the beginning because if things move too fast and you don't have it structured together, put together your business model. What does that business model look like? Who's going to be your key targeted customer? What are going to be the products and services you offer? And the pricing, all those things. When I came up with the concept for BCWN, I was like, okay, well, before I can do anything else, I need to learn how to run a business first, right? So, and then you'll be surprised how that can help you to lay the foundation for what you want to do. So I would definitely suggest that find an accelerator in your city, 6-week course, 12-week, whatever they have. Maybe it's on, of course, online right now with COVID, but it'll be worth the investment to help you just to create a foundation for your business.
And we actually are doing that. We do that in a week. We help you get clear on your client, your signature offer, your mindset. So we have a free training called Meant for More. And if you let me put the link in, I can do that. I wanted to ask first. But if you wanted to do this as an intensive for free and get a foundation, because incubators, you may have to pay for it depending on, I had to pay for mine that was in the city, right? So it can give you a good handle, right? We had ladies last time start their courses, start their business from a free training. So, and that was scheduled for June 8th. We may be doing it the next week because of the climate, but we can help you with that at Black Women CEO.
So we've got some questions coming in. So let me go ahead and start with Shauna Lee. Hello, Shauna. Thank you for tuning in to the Coaches Roundtable tonight. Hi, ladies. Thank you for the offering, your expertise. She said, let's talk about money. I am in the midst of interviewing for a position, and salary is going to be the next conversation. I'm in the space of diversity and inclusion, and most of the time, this position is new to an organization, thus running the risk of being lowballed. What tools/strategies should I use to ensure I am paid my value?
I can answer that. We cannot be afraid to make money. We as Black women cannot be scared to ask for what we're worth. And so my last corporate job, I'm retired from corporate for 2 years, but my last corporate job, when I was negotiating, I legit said, Black women are significantly underpaid. I don't know how they took it, but they gave me actually more than what I asked for. So don't be afraid to ask for more. If they really want you, they're going to find the money. Yeah. Just know if you do get an offer, definitely don't verbally accept anything on the spot. Ask for a full compensation package. We have to understand that negotiation is far beyond just the salary. So you need to check those other benefits, and also think about the period of life that you're in. Maybe you have a family, or starting a family. So getting leave, maternity leave is important to you. Professional development is not something that I think we should ever not ask for, and as well as many other benefits. You want to definitely do your research as well, depending on your city. So your location and cost of living, taking that into consideration. So there's a lot of websites that offer salary numbers. So Glassdoor, of course, PayScale, salary.com, and definitely look for the role that you're applying for. Look for those jobs in that city that are in other companies that are similar too. So you do know what you're asking for. You want to ask for way more than what you really want to. And remember that negotiation, anytime you're negotiating and asking for anything that you want, it's a conversation. It's not a confrontation. we go into it scared. We go into it like we have to fully own that conversation and know that we deserve it. And sometimes you might have to be willing to walk away if they're not really willing to pay you too. So just keep that in mind as well, and be firm in your ask and your offer. I'm curious to hear others' thoughts on ranges and numbers. I'm a fan of just giving a number and not a range, because where I see a lot of women go wrong is they ask for a range and the number that they really want is in the middle of that range, right? And then the company offers you a salary that's like right at the lower end or a little bit lower than that. And it's like, you didn't ask for more. So you got to make sure that you ask for way more. And like I said, if they really want you, they'll find the money, or they'll say, hey, we can't do it, but what do we need to do to get here?
Letitia's absolutely right. If they don't have it, trust me, been on that seat of negotiating salaries for candidates for years, and that they know what they know what they have in the budget, and they'll tell you up front if this is their cap. They'll let you know up front that there's no room for negotiation, right? There's no game with that. So that's it. And so most of them will let you know up front if that's as far as they can go.
Yeah, I think
also,
go ahead, Nicole.
Okay, I just wanted to add on to what Letitia said. Everything she said is spot on. It's great. But another thing I want you all to take into account when you're looking at different, measures to help you make a determination in terms of what to ask for, see exactly where she said diversity and inclusion role, correct? Mm-hmm. Okay, see where that role would fall on the organizational chart, meaning where's that role going to report into? So who are their colleagues in terms of, is that going to be in alignment with like your vice presidents, your associate vice presidents, what have you? Because you want to make sure that whatever your compensation is aligns with those other individuals within that job class. So that's why I'm saying, if you know exactly who that position is going to report to, who else reports to that person in that same role, you want to make sure that what you're asking for is comparable to what folks in those roles earn. Because one of the things people fail to realize is a lot of information you can find out about a company is on the internet. You can find out about their pay scales, pay ranges. So if you know that you're going to be reporting to the president and your colleagues are vice presidents, you can research what vice presidents' ranges are. So that way, when you coming up with your number, it can be within that range. Because oftentimes, and this frustrates me so much in this day and age, why are companies just hiring folks to do EEO work? Why are these the first positions? These positions should have been into effect long ago. So, that's neither here nor there. But bottom line is, like Letitia said, ask for what you're worth, but don't discount the research that is available to you.
I mean,
use that research.
That's a good point, Nicole. It's almost like a startup who's been in business for 2 years, and then you never had an HR team, or you never had a talent acquisition person come on to recruit to build your staff. I'm like, what the hell you been doing for the last 2 years? You know what I mean? So it's like, that's true. It's like you're just not bringing someone on strategically. That should have already been in the blueprint from the beginning, because it sets a great foundation for what you're doing. So no, I think that was a very strong point that you made there. We do have someone who's raised their hand, and we don't want to keep them waiting, so we'll open up.
Can I just throw one more site that it's a newer site, and so I want to make sure people know about it as well. It's called 81cents.com, the number 81 cents, CENTS, and they actually give you customized, you have to pay for it, I think it's $100 or something like that, but they give you a customized report and feedback from people in the industry to talk about where you are, and you can do it ahead of a job search, so you kind of could understand. Adding that to your repertoire of research, I think could be really useful. And one more thing, I believe in also talking to people. So all of these websites, yes, but also talk to people and ask white folks, white males, because we want to make sure that we know what they're getting so we can be aligned with that. That's all I have to say. Sorry.
Now, is it 81 in cents, or is it 80 spelled out in cents?
It's exactly how you wrote it, 81 cents. Yep.
All right, just want to make sure that way they can grab that. All right, fantastic. Thank you for that, Dorianne. We've got Miss Marsha Haygood on the line. And for those of you who do not know who Marsha Haygood is, she is the co-author of the Little Black Book of Success, The Laws of Leadership for Black Women. And she was one of the coaches on last week's Coaches Roundtable. One of my favorite women and my mentor. She just don't know it. I always say it to her. You know, my mentor without really telling you officially that you really are my mentor. You know, she knows that. But Marsha, welcome. We're so glad you tuned in tonight.
Hi, of course I did. I am so happy to be here. You ladies are rocking it. You're saying all the wonderful things that these others need to know. Thank you so much for all that you're sharing. I actually have one question and one comment. So my question was actually for Kanisha, who said that she heard the Black CEO course is going to be coming up soon. How can people find out about that? Do they go to your website, and how do they know what requirements there are?
Yeah, so the upcoming workshop is free. We particularly it's called the Men for More workshop. I'll drop the link here again. But if you go to blackwomenceo.com, you'll see like a little bar at the top and it says register now for Men for More. So that's easier for you because I just dropped like a bit.ly link with Men for More workshop, bit.ly. And you go to blackwomenceo.com and if someone could drop that, it's Black Woman with an A. Someone could drop that in the chat, that's there, but it's really helping you to increase in your profit, power, and purpose. On the page, it has all the things that we're covering. So we do mindset work, we get into like creating a signature offer, client clarity, how to actually price your offer, right? And it's all about attracting high-end clients particularly, right? And so that how to sell, so they will invest and buy what you got. Right. So we cover all that. And like I said, it's a free workshop. It's like over 7 days that we do this. And so, yeah, and we've had people who have product-based businesses also join. So I can speak to that, but we particularly work with coaches, consultants, and service-based entrepreneurs because you have more room to actually create a high-ticket offer. I think as we were talking about salaries, right, a lot of Black women don't ask for top dollar, right, for their expertise. So our whole thing is like, let me help you build the courage, right, and know how to talk about what you do so that you can actually do value-based pricing, right, value-based pricing. A lot of us who may be in business or have gotten paid for some work that we do, we often are trading dollars for hours, right, and then we're not making a profit, or you're like, oh my gosh, I actually need like 500 people to make 6 figures because I'm only charging $100 an hour instead of saying, oh, 6 weeks with me is $3,000, right? So really helping women to make that shift. So thank you, someone dropped it. And so that's who it's open to. But like I said, it's free. So you can register, check it out. There's nothing to lose, right? We're not asking you to pay anything in that way. And Marsha, I want to say your book helped me so much in my career, and it helped me to get to co-executive director in my nonprofit. So I was so happy. I'm reach out to you, girl. Yes, I love it.
Can I just mention one other thing, and it's about negotiating tips, because these tips were great. But even if you're an employee, and Sherry will tell you, I negotiate everything. So I love this part. It's, I think that everyone should come to a negotiation with 3 numbers in mind. What you really, really, really want is 1. That's the high number. What you will accept and feel comfortable with, and then 1 you're going to walk away from. And you should know that before you ever go in the room, because otherwise things get a little murky. Well, maybe I should take it, maybe I shouldn't. You know what you're worth. So go in negotiating from a seat of power rather than a seat of, I wonder what they're going to give me. So all I wanted to say, I'm finished coaching. You get back to this. I'm listening to you guys. I'm listening to you. And I want to negotiate. I want to make sure I connect with all of you because you ladies are awesome. Thank you.
Marsha, I love you. Thank you.
I feel like a little giddy, fangirl. I'm like, oh my God.
Thank you, ladies.
Really quick before Marsha gets off the line, before we mute her. But it was so funny. We talked about the power of networking, right? So Marsha and I connected, oh my gosh, I don't know, 2014, something like that. And it was so funny because it was the power of LinkedIn. I had read her book and I was like, oh my God, a book is amazing. And I was just probably not even 6 months, a year, probably about a year into really working through, working the business and building BCWN. And then I connected with her on LinkedIn, and then she responded and was like, why do you want to connect with me? And I was thinking, okay, I don't know what to say. about the book and how much I, love the book. And there was something about her that resonated with me, and I just wanted to reach out. And it took a while. We kind of had a couple of conversations back and forth on LinkedIn. And next thing I know, we were on the phone, and we've been on the phone ever since. And then, she's been at my conference, but she has just been an amazing person to connect with. And that's just the power of LinkedIn. And I'm sharing this story with a lot of the women who are viewing right now that, sometimes do not be afraid to reach out to someone that that has touched you or inspired you in your journey. And, I did that same thing. And when Marsha asked me, why did you connect with me? I told her why. And we connected. So you just can't be afraid to make that first move to connect with someone.
And please, please, don't send that lazy LinkedIn message that says,
I want to connect with you.
That's what I told you. That's what I said to you. I said, why do you want to connect with me? Tell me why. So talk to people. First of all, definitely have your picture up. I'm not connecting with somebody who's too lazy to put their picture up. And then also just say why you want to connect. I heard you on the BCWN conference and would love to connect with you. Or I read your book, or you said something great, but say something, because that starts the value connection as well. Okay, I'm off. This is not my call. Thank you, ladies. Go do your thing.
All right, you guys. Yes, love you. Yeah, she had us cracking up last week when he was on the round table. So it's always good to talk to her. We're so glad. All right, we got some questions piling up in the Q&A, so we'll jump right into some of those. Lisa Quinara, she's asking, she said, ladies, thank you for this great information. I do have a question. Do you have any recommendations on books or articles to help through the thought process when thinking about building your brand? This might be a Kanika question.
Well, since you asked, shameless plug.
Shameless plug.
Got that Amazon link so they can go.
Put that Amazon link up.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna drop it in the chat. But I really wanted to share with you guys, and there's a lot of books out there. This is mine, okay? But there are a lot of books out there that actually talk about building your brand. I wrote this book called Career Rehab, Rebuild Your Personal Brand and Rethink the Way That You Work. And I put the rebuild part there for the subtitle is because I believe that we already had brands that just needed some rebuilding. We just didn't know it. So, we already had experience, we already had education, we already had expertise, but we needed to rebuild it. So Career Rehab is really about rebuilding and doing some career renovations so we can take ourselves to the next level, because we already been doing some amazing things at work. We just didn't know how to tell the story. Right. So that's what Career Rehab is all about. I think building your brand is an important time right now, because I think a lot of times employees or professionals have dumbed down their expertise and knowledge. They've not learned how to make the small things look big. We do reports, we do Excel spreadsheets, we do briefings, we do staff meetings on a weekly basis, but we don't tell the story online on our resumes and our LinkedIn profiles in a way to show that we're an expert. We think because we do it every week or bi-weekly that it's not something that should be six-figure worthy. We think it's just something that's routine. And I think it's so important for us to change the way we word the things on our LinkedIn profile and our resumes to make the small things seem big.
And I think it is about recognizing your strengths and
your worth,
in a profound way that gives you clarity that when you strategically are moving in a way you're consciously moving in a way that that this is good for you, because you're able to move in this way effortlessly because it is a strength.
Another thing that I think that we don't do is we don't keep weekly track of our accomplishments or bi-weekly track of our accomplishments. We're so doing 50 million things. We're on 3 different projects. We're leading this. We're facilitating this. We're developing this. And, we're not really keeping track of our accomplishments. So when it's time to go and update our LinkedIn profile and our resumes and to go on interviews, we done forgot that, sometimes I look back, I'm like, dang, I did a lot of stuff, but I probably missed out on listing so many other things because I wasn't keeping the way we do our weekly reports for our jobs, we need to do a weekly report for ourselves. to keep track of all of the things that we're doing, because we're doing amazing work, but we're just not calling it out in a way that is keeping a performance track record of the things that we want to shine out in the interviews and when we conversate with recruiters and hiring managers. And the last thing I want to add is that we're not valuing our relationships at work. Brands really value the relationships with the people that we work with. Internal stakeholders, external stakeholders, the people that we conversate with every day. They may be looking at us and be like, wow, she always is so prompt through email. She's always so, she's always explaining things very well on conference calls. Somebody's looking at you and they may be ready to hire you for that next promotion or that next job. But we have to really learn to value our relationships and not just do this, oh, I'm just doing this because I got to talk to so-and-so. No, talk to so-and-so in a very good way that every day they can say, wow, you always show up and you always on point with your knowledge and your expertise. And that's what brands do at work.
All right, thank you for that, Kanika. So Samantha has another question. She says she's an MBA project management professional with a background in accounting, finance, and operations, with several years of experience in technology and manufacturing industries. Now, in the last couple of years, she's been running into ethical and legal and compliance issues at work. Created issues when she's had to report and make clear that she has some fiduciary responsibility to tell them what they're trying to do is illegal or outside of compliance. So what she wants to know is, how can she what's another way of handling these issues without being branded as someone who is bringing these issues to their attention?
I'll take this because I'm in compliance as well. And I'll kind of give you a story. So a couple years ago, I won't name the employer that I worked for, but I had an issue where I had to report my HR leadership on some things that they were doing that was totally out of compliance. And I reported it to the president of the organization along with the attorney. We were all sitting there. And the most disappointing part of that conversation was the president questioning me on what I found, whether or not I did, a proper review, all that. And for me in that moment, what I had to realize was, with some organizations, they just don't want change. And the corruption, I'll use corruption, is so deeply rooted in the culture that sometimes, regardless of you being a high ethical compliance person, you're not going to change that culture. So sometimes the best thing for you to do is to create your exit strategy and to move on to an organization that values the work that you do as a compliance person and what you're bringing to their organization. And I think for me personally, I needed that experience along my career journey to show me going forward, as I apply to other organizations, what to truly look for when it came to environment. It wasn't just about the title. It wasn't just about the compensation, but also culture. Where do I want to work? Where am I going to feel comfortable? Where am I going to feel valued and supported in the work that I do? So to answer your question, you have to really, be honest with yourself and evaluate the situation in terms of whether or not the work that you're doing is truly respected, and are they going to be receptive to you doing your work properly, or do you have to create that exit strategy and move on? Because you cannot change every culture.
And this is true. And so there's something that I teach within BCW, and it's a webinar. It's called Defining Your Professional Identity, which is really helping you to understand who you are as a professional. You have a set of values that you go by. There are deal breakers that you have. We talked about this on last week's roundtable, where we talked about you better have a go. What is your oh hell no's? Which means I'm not sticking around for this crap. You know what I mean? And then being prepared for, if you have to say oh hell no, are you ready to walk away from that? So I just think it's important that I can't stress enough that you have to understand who you really are when it comes to your professional self, right?
Exactly.
What type of manager do you know you can work well with, that you know you can thrive well, that work under? What type of environment is important to you that can help you to thrive, right? I mean, your communication style, do you understand what that is and how it affects and impacts the people that are around you and who you have to work with? All these things that you really need to understand about yourself. And when you are in tune with that, it's easy for you to not tolerate what's going on currently in your workplace, because you know your values and everything are really what you're really upholding within yourself. So you're gonna make those choices when it comes to your career, and that's what we always talk about, being career smart in our world here at BCWN, making those choices that are going to help you to stay in alignment with who you are professionally. And then you're going to be clear not only in who you are, but then you're going to be making better choices in those next career, the next job opportunity. You're going to be checking off the list. Does it have everything that I need, and not just money, you know? And then you need to walk in specifically when you walk into the organization, because you don't know what you're walking into. They can fluff it up 24/7. But you got to go over the checklist, and we talk about this in Mastering Workplace Politics and Culture in our webinar, where you have to go in and you have to identify the office characters. You need to know who the listeners are. You need to understand what are the workplace norms and the hidden rules. Those hidden rules can mess you up if you're not paying attention to what they are, because you can stick out like a sore thumb. They'd be like, "What the hell is she doing? That's not what we do." But no one told you that's what they do. So you're gonna have to recognize these things, right? And no one's gonna teach you. No one's gonna tell you that. You'll be lucky if you walk in and you have an ally out the gate. You got to determine who could be an ally. You have to determine who you need to be locking arms with or building relationships with. So all those things are hugely important. And when you don't know that, it makes it hard for you to tolerate the BS, and then you don't know how to navigate to work through that. You know, you told her about an exit strategy. She probably never thought about doing one until now, till tonight. So again, let me get off my soapbox, because I can go on all day about that.
And let me just add one last piece of information. Let me tell you how the universe works. So I created my exit strategy, moved on, got a great promotion, youngest deputy director of EEO in my role. Full circle moment. A couple months later, the organization that I used to work for that was out of compliance, guess who had to go and audit them? The new youngest deputy director of EEO. Oh, they complained and reported me.
Hey,
they were so upset. They reported me to the highest level. Oh no, she can't be unbiased. She used to work here, blah, blah, blah. And for me, you know what? It was totally fine. I removed myself from it, and an independent person did the review. Come to find out, both of those parties were terminated. And when I look at things now, I'm just so glad that I wasn't a part of any of it, because I didn't want to create issues for myself. So my thing is, people will create their own karma. So you cannot go on doing wrong and expect, to get away with it. So to the young lady that asked that question, I know it's probably, very difficult right now. Folks are probably looking at you a certain kind of way, making you feel a certain kind of way, but do your job and do it well. Because when you always do what's right, you never have regret for any wrongs, because you came from a proper place of authenticity and doing things, the right way the first time around. So just, keep on keeping on and stay strong. Opportunities are going to come your way.
Yeah. That's
core
true.
skill that's going to be needed for all of these things. I love all these tips. And I know, though, that there's people thinking like, I can't do that. They can say it easy for them. A core skill is one of the 3 C's I think Quanisha talked about, is confidence. Like, you have to build that. If you don't have that, then start there before your exit strategy. And if you're feeling like, I can't do this, it works for them, not me, figure out what you need to do to overcome that fear and any barriers keeping you from that, because none of these strategies will work for you if you don't believe it. You won't ask for your number, you won't quit, you won't speak up because of the lack of confidence. So start there. If you're feeling inside like, I can't do this, I don't know, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, focus there first and then start with these strategies.
And just know, it was not easy. I had plenty of times driving home crying in my car out of frustration because I wanted to bless somebody on a Monday and it wasn't Sunday, but I didn't do it because I had to be professional. And I knew that my character meant more than anything, because my career was going places, so I couldn't stoop to those individuals' level. So again, it's not going to be easy, but remain professional, remain respectful, and don't stoop to their level. Because what I find is, a lot of times folks will try to put you in a trick bag to respond to them in a way to give them a reason to reprimand you or terminate you in some type of way. Do not fall for it. Have grace. Don't fall for it. Just like I said, just stay positive.
piss me off right there, get me on my soapbox for real.
And if you have to, take your 15-minute breaks, go outside to your car, walk around the building, do what you have to do. Take those personal days, go to therapy, get a career coach. I've done them all, and I can tell you they worked. So it's a process. Like I always say, your career is a journey, and the different jobs and opportunities you have along the way are pit stops. This is a pit stop for you and not your final destination. So just know and understand that. And I'm done. I'm gonna leave that alone.
Hallelujah.
You're done, no, right? Woo!
Drop mic is just done. I wanted to quickly, Sheree, can I quickly add about the confidence piece? And just a quick tip. One, I think someone mentioned doing that success book, right? Your accomplishments book. Confidence is really about remembering who you are, right? Remembering who you are. And so that book's gonna help you. I left my nonprofit co-executive director job because I started seeing some unethical stuff, and I was like, I ain't being a part of this, right? And I was literally crying in my car, right? with my other friend who was executive director, because I had to confront the other co-executive director who was a white male who created this position because we were bashing heads, right? Microaggressions. But I had to go cry, and I was like, I'm gonna go and talk to my friend and we're gonna cry. And then, she helped me make a plan for leaving. And one of the things that I kept remembering was funders were telling me, oh, we gave that money because of you. And I was like, wait a minute, if they keep saying this, what happens if I go out and do this on my own? Right. And then I remembered, like, boy, I'm from the South Bronx and Ivy League. I know how to do stuff. I'm resourceful. Right. So the same skills that you've used to like overcome a challenge, that, I don't know, if you were leader of ministry at the church, right? All those skills that you built, just transfer them over, right? Transfer them over to that situation that's causing doubt or fear, right? Because fear is really an emotion, right? All emotions are signposts. It's just saying, hey, you're getting to the edge of your comfort zone, right? And I like to think of fear as a stop sign. And what do? We don't sit there, right? We assess, we look left, we look right, and then we keep going, right? So fear, you have to keep in motion to quell it and just remember who you are. And I got a podcast, like 10 minutes on that, so I can drop that link in the chat too, about just remembering who you are.
Yeah, I am like 1000% with you on that, Quenisha, about just really understanding who you are and just in owning that and just embracing that and recognizing and saying, and this is your truth. And once you start to recognize that truth, it'll be easy for you to make those different choices, right? Even if they don't feel good. So we have a question from Tanika. She says, what are some strategies for managing up when you have a difficult boss? Any strategies? I know we all have had a difficult boss at some point in our careers. I know I have.
I'll let y'all go. I'll go last. Woo. All right,
were you gonna answer?
Oh no, I was just saying I had a difficult boss. I mean, I've had a difficult boss. I think, for me, in the last year, I really had some really challenges at work personally, and I have had to go talk to the EEO office myself. I think document is so important. I think when you are going through a challenge at work, I think it's so important to document early and not later. When you start to see the signs, we've been in a lot of different relationships with jobs, and we've been in relationships and we've seen the patterns. When you start to see those same patterns exist with the new leader that you saw with the last leader, it's just so important to start the documentation process internally on your own.
Yeah, that's true.
Another thing that I've tried to do is I've tried to have one-on-one weekly chats or talks with that manager to really develop a relationship of transparency and engagement, so they can't say that I didn't bring these things to the table, to the forefront. I think we keep a lot of things bottled up of how we feel about our manager, but we've never had those conversations with them about what's going on with our deliverables, what's going on within the workplace. And having those conversations goes back to your documentation, because if you're having those conversations, it's not like they did not know, and you're documenting that you had those conversations as well. Being a woman in tech and being a Black woman and having to deal with the male dominating industry, it's hard sometimes, because I have to report to a lot of white male managers. And I think for me, the best thing that I have done is I've tried to develop a relationship with them for myself and not based on what's other people's experiences. So when I first started this job a year and a half ago, other people was having really, really, really tough situations with this person. And I try not to make that my problem. Because I think for so often you're the new kid on the block, and then all of a sudden people are telling you how bad this manager is, and you haven't experienced it for yourself. So don't make that experience automatically your experience because your cubicle mate is having that current experience. Mm-hmm. Learn to develop a relationship with the manager that could possibly be the bad manager, because if they haven't been the bad manager yet, you don't want to that hearsay and all that gossiping. What I started to believe, like, oh, dang, since Dion is having that problem with him or her, man, I guess it's going to happen to me. And right. I think that's a bad mindset of going into a relationship with a new manager who that employee may just not be the employee that they think that you are. So go in there with clear expectations about the conversations that you want to have with them, and don't dictate your experience off of another employee's experience when you're dealing with bad leadership or bad managers, because you'll find out that you and Bobby gonna be cool and it just was Jimmy, which is a bad employee.
There's also, that is so good, Kanika. I think there's also a difference between a bad manager and a toxic manager. And I think we conflate those things all the time. And so as an HR person, like when I put on my HR hat all the time in my coaching, like, first of all, let's dial in and let's talk about what makes this manager bad. If they're a bad manager, then we can supplement or complement their bad skills with our good skills. We can put some systems in place. There's things you can do to help your manager manage you better. Anyone who I've ever reported to, I turn them into good managers. If it's just about being bad, how we communicate, what we doing, I help them. They don't know I'm doing that. They don't know I'm managing them, but I get that going and I play into their skills. Some things I need to just get over. That's not their style, and this is their team, and so I have to do that. So that's one thing. The toxic piece, if they are disrespectful, if they are racist, if they are sexist, those sorts of things, then I think it's time to figure out, is there someone else at the company that I need to help me navigate this? So back to the point around, I think it was you, Sherry, navigating politics. A big part of that is finding the allies. So before, I always encourage people to have these conversations head on. Again, back to that confidence. I'm a grown woman, and so I can have these sorts of conversations with you. However, before I do that, let me talk to other allies and see, how can I get in? Have you experienced something? What's going on? And I definitely use my resources there. If that doesn't work, then you escalate to HR. If your HR is trash, because unfortunately a lot of them are, and it hurts my heart as an HR professional to the core when I hear some of these HR stories. Okay. Some of these HR people are trash. And so, figure that out. Hopefully they can help. If not, then we back to exit strategy. Like, we are too amazing as Black women to be in situations where we are being mentally, emotionally beaten up day after day. Maybe you can't just up and quit a job, but put your exit strategy in place so that you can leave. But I think the first thing, and something I didn't even mention, sometimes the reason why you have a difficult a relationship is you. Like, are you doing the work? Like, so there's a whole bunch of triage I think that needs to happen first. Understand, is it that they're just a bad manager? Understand, do I need to step my game up? Understand, is it just toxic? And then you have your plan accordingly. But I really think before you just give up and say, I can't do this, or they don't like me, or whatever it is, really dig into, are you being antisocial? And so that's why you haven't built the relationship, and that's why you don't feel comfortable with them. Like, there's so many things. And so I'd say dig in there.
I think for me, being diagnosed with workplace anxiety this last year and dealing with a bad manager and going to EEO is also knowing the EEO process is lengthy, it's long, right? And can you and your sanity, are you willing to accept stability over your sanity? And can you really deal with that for a long period of time? Because going to EEO, sometimes people think the EEO office is going to be your savior. No, this process goes through a long process. It's a mediation. It's different levels to it. And if you've already been going through this toxic experience for 24 months, can you deal with it with another 12 months of going through the EEO process, willing to compromise your health? If not, exit strategy. Get out of there, because there's no point of even wasting your time. Half of the times, toxic managers or even bad managers, they've already had a track record. and they know about them. Leadership knows about these people. And once there's been a track record of other employees leaving for the same reason you want to leave, you don't even need to have a conversation with HR or EEO. You already got the answer.
Yeah,
Get
signed
going.
signed off on the behavior, so there's no reason for you to fight. And to like what Dorianne was saying, you do need to get clear about if it's a bad manager or if it's toxic, and you know if it's toxic, because you're not the only person who's being impacted by the behavior.
If toxic, you will feel it. If it's toxic, the person is going to feel it.
Feels it too, right?
Exactly.
So you got a bad manager who just doesn't know how to communicate, or a bad manager who just doesn't not timely in coming to a meeting. That type of foolishness can be, like you said, can be corrected. You are going to feel it, and it's going to impact you.
A bad manager could just be someone you don't like their leadership style because it don't agree with your communication style. That doesn't make them a bad manager. It just means that you don't know how to adapt.
Or they don't know how to adapt.
You don't need to adapt, because to me, I still feel like there's a certain type of manager style that can be important to you. Adaptability is important, right? But it depends on where you need to adapt and how you need to adapt. But there are some types of management styles that will never mesh with yours, and you will never have the highest productivity based on that. You have to be clear on who's going to work for you, because again, when you're in that organization, that manager can make and break the elevation of how far you go, right? And you kind of have to be clear on that. That is a crucial piece to the elevation in that organization, and maybe even out, depending on the connections. So you do have to that management style between the two is important.
Can I add? I would like all of you to read sales books, because one thing that wasn't mentioned is ask that manager what is important to them. Right? Like, what are their goals? How can you help them with their goals? And when you know what someone's motivation is, right, you can speak to that, right, and connect with it. So yes, is that other part of like personalities, but then it's like, all right, John is focused on having us all with improvement. He has to hit these benchmarks. How do I help him reach those benchmarks? So I read a lot of sales books. Because it's sales psychology, it's human nature, right? So what are people's hot buttons? How do you get to a win-win? How do you appeal to their desires? And this is not about being like exploitive or I think sales gets a bad rap. It's really a human psychology, right? So I learned how to speak to people around what they want and match up who I am to what they want, right? And so like, like, I don't even like you, but I know how to talk to you, right? And so it teaches that communication. It teaches you how to connect. So part of that managing up with a bad manager is you want to talk to that person about what's important to them, what do they value, and what they want, so that you know really like how to kind of like stay in their warehouse of like, oh, like she really always brings me the benchmarks on time, or she's helping other people do stuff. So if you help them win, right, it makes you look good.
Yep. And just, I wanted to add one last point. Everything you guys said, ditto times 20, 30. But also the great thing about bad and toxic managers is that you learn how not to be when you get in that role. You learn from that experience. So, you know, don't negate the fact that you've gone through that, but it's also a teachable moment for you in how you want a management staff when it becomes your turn to be in that position. You want to do something totally opposite. You want to make sure that you're effective, and you want to be a great communicator.
That's a very good point, because now that I'm a manager, I think about all the career heartbreaks, and I'm like, I don't want to break these people's heart the way that they broke my heart. I don't want to micromanage. I don't want to mentally abuse them in the ways that I've been mentally abused. I want them to thrive. I want them to be rock stars, and I want them to, you know, be able to come to me and be transparent. So you're so right. You know, me being a manager now, I think about all the bad times that someone try to mentally abuse me or was toxic towards me. And then it just helps your teams organically thrive when they see that you really care. You know what I mean? People just, I mean, I hate to say it, but people really at work, they want to do a good job, but they do want to see that leadership does care, that they're a human being.
Yeah, they do. I mean, I think that to me is probably one of the simplistic things that they can do is care, right? The performance can go a long way just with that gesture alone, and then just being sincere about that, you know, because you know if you're paying attention, you'll know, you can understand what the agenda is if you know, or what you're dealing with. You know, I mean, I had a manager one time who 3 months into the position, I knew she had it out for me. And I'm thinking, now I know I haven't done anything to cross any lines. I'm clear about who I am. I've been clear about what my path is and why I'm here. So what's your problem? And so, you know, it was to the point to where she had inflated my numbers, which were like double what my teams were. And when it came time to review that, I'm thinking, this is an unrealistic number. I know I'm not going to be able to meet this. And come to find out, the number wasn't, I found out from the president, my number was inflated double than the rest of the team, you know, setting me up to try to fail out the gate, right? So I had to deal with, how am I going to manage this woman knowing that she's clearly has it out for me? So I'm having to document and be careful about what I say. I mean, walking away, everybody in the organization loved me except for my manager. What does that tell you? You know what I'm saying? I have great relations with everyone except for her. And, you know, I had to deal with that. And you ready for this? I found out after I left the organization, the reason why she was gunning for me was because she had a crush on my coworker, and she thought him and I was doing something. Wow. And him and I were just, you know, had a great working relationship and worked well together as a team. Can you believe that? So you never know what the underlying motives of people are, and not to tell anyone's business, but eventually them two hooked up. Come on now. I'm like, so at the expense of my job, you want my coworker and made my life a living hell because what you thought you assumed. And I found that out after I was already months gone from the position. But again, you just never know the intentions and the underlying motives of people. But I stayed true to who I was, and you continue to have relationships with the people in the organization. And when I left, she turned her toxic behavior to someone else. And before she left, she made that place a ruin in terms of the whole entire organization. The toxicity that came through there after that was horrible. So you gotta I'm sharing that story to say you never know what the underlying motive for people are, but if you know yourself, then you don't take that personally. I knew I knew it wasn't me, it was her. But someone else could have came along and felt like a complete failure, or kept thinking, what was I doing wrong? Mm-hmm. And so and workplace bullying is serious, right? It's serious, and you need to know what the signs are. And she was a classic case of a workplace bully, and you have to understand what those signs are.
Mm-hmm. Sherry, if I can add to that, I think you said something important earlier, which was, I knew what my goals were. I knew what my path was.
Oh yeah.
You made that clear.
I made that clear.
You know, sometimes bad management is because they don't really know how to effectively lead. And, you know, the way I think about good leaders is they are responsible for building leaders. Good leaders make other leaders. And so with what I've been helping some of my clients with, their managers are bad because their managers aren't effective leaders. And I think that's why it's important for us to always communicate what our goals are, share what our desired path is. Yeah. If we need certain skills, if there's certain conference, I don't know what we're gonna do about conferences now, but if that is to become a thing again, just always advocating for what our needs are to get us to where we need to go, and not being afraid to share that with our leadership. We should be in the driver's seat of our career. And I've seen a lot of my clients get frustrated because they're like, I should have got promoted by now, or it's been 2 years and it's time for me to get promoted. I don't know what they're doing. And I always ask, well, have you shared that? Have you shared your goals? Have you told them that you are ready to get promoted? We can't no longer further wait for our organization or our company to validate our experiences. Like, if you know you're the bomb and you're showing up every day and you're doing the work, you have to be willing to tell them that, hey, y'all need to invest in me, and you have to hold them accountable. You know, it's not enough for companies to give us the job and pay us. Like, I hear a lot of folks say, I'm just lucky to have a job, and I get it, because times are most definitely hard right now, but understand that there's a lot that you are actually adding to that organization in exchange.
It's a mutually beneficial relationship. They have the role and the pay, and you have the skills, the perspective, the point of view. Do not walk in there like Like, even if the times are hard, I still don't feel lucky. Y'all are lucky to have me. The day I leave, the company loses. That's literally how I walk into work situations. Well, how I did. I retired, 2 days retired from corporate America, but that's exactly the same thing. It's about like, you lucky to have me. So how about we start there?
So I shared this last week on the call with the last group of coaches, and this is something that I found in the book by T.D. Jakes, which is the 10 Commandments of Working in a Hostile Environment, and it talks about a validation. And to me, it's a very good point. So I share this a lot. It's about, you don't need validation when you walk through the job. We're not, manager's review, all that. That's just formality of stuff to see how you've been doing, right? Because you know you're a rock star, right? So, the only validation that you need is when they come to you and they offer you the position. They selected you over all the candidates. You were the candidate they chose for the role. That's all the validation you need. They chose you, right? Now you show up with your strategic plan about what it is you want from the role and how you're going to utilize this position to catapult you to the next level, right? And staying focused on what that strategic goal is. And so that's all you need. Don't walk in there looking for more approval, because you're going to be highly disappointed. Highly disappointed. Focus on other things you need to be able to maintain and survive in this place. And then the alliances and get what you need so you can move on to the next. Again, I'm always say it, put an expiration date on your job. I don't care where you work. You better put it on there before they do, because it's coming eventually.
I think even when you see the signs are not good, you want to always be a strategic hustler, and you want to say, well, what can I get out of the deal? Even though I know this relationship going bad with this job, let me get this training, let me get this certification, let me get them to pay for this. It's like you dating a dude and you're going to dump him, but let me get everything I need to get out of the situation, because it's about to be over, because I'm setting this up for the new dude. So this is what I try to say, is that we have to build our brand by dating jobs. We have to stop going into this like this is a marriage and this is going to be forever. No, it may not be forever, okay? It may come to an end. And if it comes to an end, you've been preparing yourself. You've been skilling up. You've been getting certifications. You've been getting experience. You've been expanding your network. So when it's time to dump them, you gracefully moving on, and you've been prepared. I don't go into any job just because I share all my goals and I share all these things. Things could easily change with new leadership, a reorg, but guess what? Kanika's still gonna get that $3,000 a year training budget. I'm still gonna go to these conferences virtually, just because I can't go on in person. I'm still going, because I gotta make sure that I'm good. That's all of it. They know what they getting out of the deal. I got to make sure I'm good. And I think that's so important, is that they getting something out of the deal 40 hours a week. What are you getting out of the deal?
Yeah, I mean, you got to keep that checklist of what are you accomplishing? What are you achieving that's keeping you marketable and elevating you at all times? They do it. So why aren't we strategically thinking in that mindset when we get into these roles? I think that it's hugely important to keep that in front of you, at all times. Okay, we got questions to answer. That was good, you guys. That was good. All right, so Samantha says, just to follow back up from her question, she said that she's interviewing for a senior manager position and like to ask the question in the process so she can ask details around ethics and compliance. But I think, Nicole, you covered that with her on that pretty good, so I think we can move on to the next question. Now, Linda Johnson said, Kanika, that she said that her experience, was toxic. She had a manager who everyone worked for before her. They were horrible. Turns out she was one of the best managers for her, though. So she worked out for her, even though she was horrible for the rest of them. She said they had a great relationship and she taught her a lot, but not sure why the others, had a certain experience with her as they did. And again, it does go back to your workplace style, your workplace personality. All those things can actually take that into consideration. Why that boss may be good, you may work well with them and someone else may not. All right, so we have another question from Natalie Charles. She says, what do you ladies think about starting a business and changing careers at the same time? So we should maybe have some good advice for this. She's shifting careers from psychology to finance, but also working on developing a manual for her career coaching and streamlining her signature offer business. Just want to know your thoughts. Quenisha, you can answer that?
So my first thought, I think I read your question was, what do you want to be known for? Right? What do you want to be known for? So if you want to be known, because it seems like you're making a manual, if you want to be known for career coaching, then you build your platform out around there, right? Your website, highlight that on your LinkedIn. Okay, let me tell you about LinkedIn, right? So if you're getting a job in finance, you still may, because you like, they're gonna go to your LinkedIn, you may want to highlight your finance, then you get that job, right? But then you can talk about career coaching, or you can combine the two. You may do career coaching for finance professionals, right? But particularly, I encourage everyone to have their own self-hosted website, which means you get your own domain, right? Like mine used to be, it actually is up, QuanishaSmith.com, right? That was my personal brand. And that's why I house my stuff, right? So if you want to focus on career coaching, have some place where you're sharing that thought leadership, so you still get known for that. And then, the job that you need to have some, get by, or that job's going to be your first investor for your business, right? That's how you have to think about your paycheck. It's your investor for your business. That's fine. So I don't think it's a matter of, well, you still have to balance the two, but particularly, what do you want to get known for? Build out your thought leadership and platform for that, right? And get known for that. And if the job is just, that's what you're moving into, that's fine. But I always tell people, think about how you can converge the two. So, there's probably not a lot of people doing career coaching for finance professionals, right? So you can bring your psychology experience, where you're moving in, and also build your platform out around that if you desire to do that. So you can let me know if that was helpful in the chat or anything.
I like that. Thank you for sharing that, Quenisha. So Nicole says, hey, Nicole. Nicole is one of our BCWN mentors. She does a lot of mentoring work here locally with me for BCWN. She shared that she had a toxic manager as well. She tried to run initially, but decided to perform well and ultimately prayed her out. Oftentimes, you will never know why a bully at work dislikes you. This is so true. I think I was kind of lucky to find out why my bully didn't like me. How often we get to find that out? I just definitely would not have known that's what something as petty as that would have been. I was definitely shocked about that. All right, Natalie, so thank you for your question. We appreciate that for sure. We do have an anonymous attendee who has asked a question. She says, what are some of the common mistakes Black women make in LinkedIn and with their online brand presence?
I say, if I could jump in, sorry, super passionate about LinkedIn. I heard that and my heart started palpitating. The biggest mistake is ignoring it. That is the biggest mistake. Why do people not have photos? Why has not it been updated? Why is your about section basic? Like, there's so much that comes from LinkedIn, whether you're looking to get another job. Believe it or not, you can use LinkedIn to get a promotion at your current job. You can get speaking opportunities as a 9-to-5er. You can get side speaking opportunities, and virtual is blowing up. Please don't let anybody tell you, oh, speaking is dead. Oh, no, it's not. Please don't let them tell you that. There's so much. If you have a business, you can also use LinkedIn for that. Building your brand. As you build up your personal website, like Quenisha talked about, start in LinkedIn. It has great SEO already, and brand yourself there. Have your thought leadership hosted there. Like, there's just so much. And so the biggest mistake is to downplay it, to overlook it, to underrate it, and to ignore it. That to me is mistake number one.
I want to add to that.
That was good, Dorian.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
That was good. Go ahead.
Oh, no, that was good. I think that the biggest mistake Black women make on LinkedIn is not asking for help. They let their egos get in the way of not asking for help about opportunities, about jobs, about just things. Like, for me being in tech, and I'm kind of shifting from project management into cybersecurity. I did a post and said, hey, I'm doing a career change and I want to learn more about cybersecurity. Could you guys give me some advice? So can I connect with some of you cybersecurity experts online so I could talk to you through Zoom, have virtual coffee chats? I think people are letting their pride get in the way of being able to connect with new people and learn new things. They're scared to say that they don't know. And they think LinkedIn is, I guess, for all the experts and all the most knowledgeable people. I'm on there because there's a lot of people smarter than me, and I want to learn from them. And I think a lot of people are not maximizing LinkedIn to be a student, to really be a student of the content that's posted, shared, and even saying, hey, offline, I'm going to connect with these amazing women here who are also business or career coaches or entrepreneurs. And I'm going to pick their brain and really get an understanding of, when I heard them on that webinar, when I heard them on that virtual chat, I want to connect with them one-on-one. I think LinkedIn, people foresee it as like, oh, everyone's a thought leader, and everyone's a hiring manager, everyone's a recruiter. And no, it's just a regular professionals. We're all going through this and learning together. So I would say, please be willing to ask for more help about what you want for your career or your business on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I mean, it's about educating yourself, right? And understanding the value of certain things. That's like when you hear people say, you know, oh, I don't have a LinkedIn page. It's like, you know, it's like, I'm just thrown back. What do you mean you know, you don't have a LinkedIn? That's what it is now today. It's like, what? So, well, okay, we need to talk, right? Because there's so much value in that, helping people to understand. That's why you see so many people who are teaching that and coaching on it completely. So we've got two people who have their hands raised to want to.
Sherry, can I chime in on that real quick? Okay. Kanika said something, y'all said some real important stuff. Kanika said something about asking for help. All of my clients always struggle with reaching out for a referral or understanding that, you know, if, again, let's say you ask somebody put you on at a job, right? A lot of organizations have employee referral programs. So if they refer you and you get a job and you land there, they get a cut too. Other thing too is that, let's say you do get a job there, you're making that person look good as well too. So like, don't be afraid to ask for help, because again, when we think about that mutual or beneficial exchange, it's both ways. The other thing too is that LinkedIn is a social networking site. Like, so you should be socially networking. I was listening to a podcast the other day and it said only 2% of LinkedIn users actually post frequently. I post a lot. That's increased visibility as well. I've met some great clients, a lot of my clients. I've met some friends on LinkedIn. So we cannot sleep on social media to actually socially network and to build relationships. It's not as hard as we may think it is. And then the last thing too is that I don't care what other job boards you all might be using, you want to go and look at that job on LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is going to directly connect you to that recruiter or someone that works at that organization. And majority of roles are filled, if not internally, second through referrals. So you have to make sure you're getting referrals. You can easily find people that work at the organizations you want to work for. So
LinkedIn's job board is, I find, to be robust. And here's the thing too, you have to think about too, you got most recruiters, when they get your resume, the next place they're going to go look is going to be LinkedIn. And it's not out of being nosy, okay? It's about seeing what else can they find out about you, because sometimes a resume doesn't tell the whole story. So when they go onto LinkedIn, they can look at maybe, your blog post. They can look and see an extension of who you are professionally. Your LinkedIn can tell the bigger picture, tell them a little bit more about who you are, the bigger picture of that story. And you should be showcasing that on your LinkedIn. Again, on paper, they can see some things, but the LinkedIn can give them a real good picture of who you are and what you could bring to the table for their organization. So people who are thinking that they're not checking it to be nosy, they're checking it to see what else can they find of value, to see that to consider you, to pick up the phone and give you a call or send you an email and say, hey, we want to talk to you. We're interested in talking to you further. So think of it as a way to showcase your professional self in the best light possible. I mean, like Kanika talks about the dating reference, people on Bumble and Tumble and all these other things with these profiles and all that stuff. And you got the cute picture and I like to ski and swim and all that good stuff. That's great. But why aren't you showing your best self or, sharing your best professional self on LinkedIn, right? And that's how you should look at it. A great marketing tool to attract, candidate, to attract employers, because definitely employers are on there to look for talent.
And Sherry, can I just add one other thing too? Also, LinkedIn is just good to help you kind of figure out what you may possibly want to do next, because I can, my personal story in terms of starting my business and wanting to go into career coaching, I didn't know any other career coaches 6 years ago when I started wanted to start my business. So I did a search on LinkedIn. And believe it or not, what came up was a number of different white women and white males who were career coaches, and Sherry's name popped up. So I was like, oh, I said, okay, I got to reach out to her. And I reached out to Sherry, and whether I emailed her or messaged her and asked her if I could have some of her time, she said yes. And that's how I developed a connection with her. So I'm saying all this to say that success leaves clues. If there is something that you're interested in going into, just kind of do a search in LinkedIn to see the different profiles that come up. Look at people's profiles to see how they started, where they are currently, and it'll kind of give you an idea of different paths you can take in your career journey. So definitely utilize that resource.
Yeah, because I think, you know, and do not be afraid to take the path of the less traveled. That's kind of always has been my philosophy, in a way to do that, which means, and I'm not saying it to say, oh, I want to go this way because no one else has. I'm saying it to say that go that way, even though it's scary and you have no guide or anybody to kind of give you a vision for how to do it or create it or be it. Go off your instinct and move in that direction. There's a reason why you're drawn to what you're doing. So if it's unknown territory, it's probably you're the one who needs to go and discover that and then kind of hold the space to open the door. So just think about it from that perspective. Jasmine says, Sherry's the godmother of the space. Shout out to you, Sherry. Oh, Jasmine, thank you for tuning. Why you even get on here and talk to us? We want to talk to you. Jasmine, one of the coaches from last week that's on here. So thank you for that.
If I may, Sherry, can I really also talk to the psychology of Black women for a second?
Absolutely.
So my master thesis was studying Black women, right? Like our leadership, what comes up in our challenges. So lots of research, like over 100 hours, and then Black women CEO 5 years. So I got all this anecdotal also research. So here's the thing. Let me know in the chat if you have a problem asking for help in general, right? Just put, I don't ask, right? Something like that. Part of that is the strong Black woman syndrome, right? How we're socialized. We are socialized to do it ourselves, to figure it out ourselves. If we sometimes feel like we can't, we think people are going to think we're stupid, right? Or that we don't know. And part of that is like, you know, I got to be twice as good as everybody else. So asking will make me seem this way. And I want you to know that you have a right to ask for help.
Yes.
You have a right to ask for help. You don't have to figure this out by yourself. Right? Even if you're nervous, sometimes acknowledge that, like, hey, Sherry, I saw your book. I'm a little nervous to reach out to you, but I really wanted to learn more about XYZ, right? So sometimes even acknowledging that emotion. So we are socialized to do it ourselves all the time. And that's really the root of that. And so once we can name it, right, and claim it, right, and then we can start to change it and do something about it once you're kind of aware of how we're socialized as Black women, right? And there's a great book called Shifting that really speaks to our psychology and how we're socialized. It's the largest qualitative project on it was the African American Women's Voices Project, the largest qualitative project to date. So it talks a lot about our psychology, how we're socialized, and they saw a lot of patterns. So if you really want to understand, sometimes some of it is like our historical, cultural, familial, and even our own lived experiences in our head, right? That impacts the results, how we're showing up, right? So, and once again, that's not to say like, oh, we're stuck, but it is, I like to call it a syndrome because, you know, it's problematic, but we also can leverage that strong Black woman is, right, also for our strengths, right? So instead of you over serving everybody else, serve yourself, right? So I just wanted to bring that psychology part into that so that we can be aware that that can be some of the root of why we have a hard time asking for help.
No, I like that. Thank you for sharing that. This is a good point to be able to cover that. So that was good. So we do have two people have raised their hands. So we'll start with Danita Carter because she's been so patient in waiting. Hi, Danita. How are you this evening? Thank you for your patience.
Hi, I'm great. I actually had registered for the mentoring thing in April. I was very disappointed. I know everything that happened, why it did not happen.
Our mentor summit. For those of you who don't know, the mentor summit is something we do every year. We do it here in Cincinnati and we do it in Columbus. And our goal was to take it on the road for spring of 2021, which we have to kind of postpone it now with COVID. But The Mentor Summit specifically is we bring in women like yourselves, and we do speed mentoring. They get to select 4 different mentors, and they'll have roundtable discussions every 30 minutes, and they'll change to another mentor and have a conversation. So we do a panel discussion, we feed them, of course, and we do some networking. So it's been, we've been doing it for 6 years now, and it just grows every single year. But the women come in and get that, you know, be able to get advice from professional Black women in the workplace, and we make sure we bring women in from different levels in their careers and different industries. So that way we've got a good eclectic mix of women. So, but yeah, so hopefully we'll be able to take it on the road at some point to some of the different cities. I know North Carolina is one of the places who keep asking us to bring it, Letitia, FYI.
I do have a question. Well, actually, so
Sure.
I'm an IT professional. I've been in IT for almost 30 years. So I'm dating myself. I was in the Air Force before then when technology was first coming in. I've self-taught. I believe in education, so I've taken a lot of classes. So just recently, at the beginning of this year, I decided to step away from corporate America. I was actually an infrastructure IT architect. So I stepped away to complete my education and to kind of step out on my own. I've been going out. I've actually worked for several large organizations, and I have a knack for automation and organization. I actually reached out on LinkedIn for a career coach, but like one of the other ladies was saying, you get all these white professionals who don't really understand or can't speak to some of the things I would like to talk about. And I'm really encouraged by this forum because I'm one that never asked for help. I'm the mother of two college graduates, I might say. They're out and on their own, and an empty nester. And I'm actually going back to, I kind of know what my value is, but I have a hard time asking for that. And it seems like even though I went from place to place, I would always take a pay cut. But before I left, I had made that pay cut up tenfold before I left. But I always, like one of the ladies says, I kind of have my exit strategies. I know if things aren't working out, and I know that I'm not conducive to corporate America, and I want to go out and into consulting. So I know I don't want to be in an organization, but I would love to use my skills to help. So I need help. How do I go about that?
All right, who wants to take that on?
I'll take it. So Danita, I think first and foremost, it's great that you recognize that you need help. And the fact that now you're open to investing in a career coach. And, you know, as you can see, many of us on this platform are career coaches. I would say research, you know, career coaches now that you have our contacts to see who would be the best fit for you, because we all have, you know, different uniquenesses that make us great for our clients. So right. I think that would be a great point, well, a great starting point for you to have a coach. And I can tell you, just in listening to you speak, I think the biggest thing with you is your confidence. Your confidence has to be developed because it's clear that you have the expertise, you have the education, but without that confidence and alignment with all those other attributes, you're going to continuously face challenges. So the moment you start to do the work to develop that confidence, you know, the world is yours because you have everything to make a great consultant. Even in my mind, I was jotting down, have you ever thought about going into academia, teaching, you know, what you know to students? That would be a great, you know, option for you as well. But I just think, again, research different coaches, see what be of a best fit for you, and just start some type of coaching program. And the focus should be on developing your confidence.
Thank you.
Thank you, Danita, for your question. All right, next up is Tara Marshall. Let me go ahead and unmute your line, ma'am, so you can ask your question. Uh-oh, did I miss it? Oh, there she is. Wrong one, sorry. There we go. All right, Tara, you're up, lady.
Okay, hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I actually had typed it, but it was so long, I think it got pushed up to the top. So I returned to corporate America early last year. after taking about 7 years, quote unquote, off. During that time, I was in direct sales, built successful businesses in that arena, then moved into starting my own small business, providing healing, alternative healing and wellness services, and did that for about 5 years and closed that out in 2018. When I shifted over, I was in a contract/temp position, moved throughout the firm. I have a legal background, so I ended up moving into business development within the legal industry with an AmLaw 100 firm. However, due to the COVID layoffs, and I finally landed into a role in the firm that I really enjoyed, that was eliminated. So moving forward, my assistant directors are all ready to give strong referrals and write strong recommendations. But based on I really want my 10 plus 15 years of experience to count. And I'm struggling with telling the right story. I've recruited and managed teams, hired virtual staff in running my own business, pitched services, hired other people to work for me as subcontractors. And so my challenge is, again, telling the right story and marketing my diverse experience when I'm finding that very often recruiters especially have very narrow narrow profiles for the positions. So I might have 10 years in sales and marketing and business development, but I don't have 10 years in this particular role in this particular industry. And so it's that transferable skill and leveraging that in a way that I'm not starting over at 40.
Okay. All right. Who wants to answer?
I'll take it. All right. So you gave me a lot of information, but I can just tell you, I would really need to sit down with you and dissect everything, because what I would want to know is, why did you choose to go back into corporate America? Because oftentimes with recruiters, depending on the nature of the role, they're very mindful of who they select out of concern of whether or not that person is really looking to stay with the company, or what their motives are. So, based on what you're sharing in terms of the experience that you gained from having your own business, you sound like a very seasoned professional with great experience. So depending on the type of roles that you're applying to, it's kind of like, could you be viewed as overqualified and they're questioning why you're applying, or what? So I say all this to say
it's the latter. It's actually that I don't have the 10 years, the 5 years, the 7 years in a particular role, in a particular trajectory within that industry. So, for example, as a business development professional within a law firm for the past 5 years, like they're really narrow in their view.
Well, I mean, for it to be that narrow, there has to be something that's triggering that, because not every recruiter is going to be narrow-minded. Some of them are able to look past certain things and look at the bigger picture of what your entrepreneurial spirit can bring to the role, right? And then it's not just them. If it's a recruiter who's working with a hiring manager, then there's a whole set of criteria that probably needs to be screened and looked at in order to even push someone to that next stage of the process. So, and you don't know what that, you do not know what that is. A good recruiter is going to look beyond some of those things and really screen and dive deeper and have deeper questions around, why are you wanting to come back? And you have to be real and honest about that. What can you bring to the table with with the skills you obtained coming back into it? Some of that is you selling why, and them understanding that how you can fit into this specific role, and how you can probably be successful in it. So I just think it sounds like to me, are you selecting the right positions that can sell what you have to offer?
Correct.
Matching up, because it doesn't sound like it is, right? we all know this for us who are in HR, who have hired people, what have you. We all know job descriptions is just a smidget of what you really do. Okay.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Or what's really involved in that job.
And
Well,
Sherry,
it's similar to the role. It's basically the next level of the role that I was in for the past year prior to the COVID layoffs.
You say it's the next level of the role?
Right. So I was in a specialist role, but everyone that I've spoken to, including people in the industry, say that I should be really targeting a managerial role, especially having a terminal degree, went to law school, all of that, and having managerial experience, that I should be doing that. I took the specialist because I wanted to, I understood that I was re-entering and wanted to learn the specific role and the specific tasks within the industry. Now that I have a handle on that, bringing my other skills to bear is not a concern as it relates to really operating in a managerial space, whether it's personnel management or process and task management, or a combination of the two.
Sherry, I was just going to recommend for Tara, for you, I would recommend a career coach who has experience with conducting career assessments to compare your experience to the industry that you are interested in being a part of and, advancing throughout. And also, I would recommend that their career coach has resume writing experience, because it's going to be very important that your experience is clearly articulated on paper. Because oftentimes what I find is folks will have, great experience that does directly relate to the positions that they're applying to, but it's not clearly articulated on paper. So like Sherry said, something is not matching up. So I really think a good coach who can give you, one, a career assessment, compare what you have to what the industry is requiring and look at the different roles and see where you align, and also someone who is a seasoned resume writer. I think that should help you.
Yeah, because not every recruiter is going to has that narrow-mindedness where they can't see beyond some of that, right? Because that's their job, is to be able to sometimes, ask the right questions to decipher if this person's a good candidate or not. Because a good recruiter is going to look at the resume and say, well, it's not telling the whole story, but I see something here, so let me call them and have a conversation. But in order for you to get to that, in order for you to get there, you still need to be applying for the jobs that are going to be in alignment with that, if that makes sense.
Yes. I've had great conversations with some recruiters, and they've, what I've been running up against is, because I'd applied to a lot of the firms, the recruiting agencies they have a rule where if you've applied to the firm within 1 year, they can't put you forward. So that's another thing that I'm running into. So
because if they're working with a lot of third-party agencies,
yeah.
that's a standard contract. That's a standard contract with a lot of them.
Yeah.
That 1 year mark is going to hurt you. And the problem is that they're all sourcing from the same pool of candidates, right? The majority of them are. So, you only have, depending on your city and where the market you're in, there's going to be some overlap. So you need to find you like a specific headhunter or someone you can build that relationship with, see their clientele base, how broad it is. And you need to kind of work a little bit more strategically with that. And maybe work with someone who definitely has a bigger clientele base that can talk to that hiring manager and maybe sell you versus the resume. Does that make sense? Because we have people who do that.
Okay.
Yep. So I would find you a good headhunter.
Thank you.
Okay, we've got 3 questions and we got to wrap it up because our ladies got to go to bed. But we want to get these last 3 questions answered, so we don't want to leave them hanging. So Kathy Garrett Davis, she says, I don't have an industry because I work in law, nonprofit, government, and education. Now I'm in insurance claims. My heart is empowering the underdog. How and where do I start to brand myself? So we're back to branding. So maybe, hopefully, if she's still on, if we've answered this question for her. But again, I think it goes back to, and who wants to answer this? Kanika's all in the question. She's probably ready to answer with the branding part. So what does she need to do, Kanika? She's in insurance claims.
I was trying to read the question. You said she's in insurance claims.
Mm-hmm. She's worked in law, nonprofit, government, education. Now she's in insurance claims. Her heart is empowering the underdog. How and where do I start to brand myself? Well, I think you got to figure out where, right? What's the whole basis of what you're wanting to do?
But I think
what underdog do you want to empower?
I mean, I think it goes back to brand alignment that we've kind of talked to on this call for a lot. I think that a lot of people that are trying to rebrand themselves into different industries, they're really going to have to, what I try to do is take a look at where I've been and where I'm trying to go and build some alignment between the two. It's impossible to do career changes, transition into new fields without looking at that job description and looking at the skills that I have and seeing what's transferable and seeing where things can meet, and retelling the story and rewriting that story. So a lot of the experience that she may have had in the past, she has to basically somewhat mash it up with where she's trying to go. We can't continue to try to like transition into new careers, into new industries, still talking the talk of the past. We have to have the past meet the future some way. And I think that just goes to Tara and some of the other questions that we've already had. We also, I want to just say this too, we spend so much time relying on the recruiter making a decision on whether we're a good fit. And we haven't really talked about how do we expand our network to communicate our experience and our past with people that have leverage to advocate for us for a new role. A recruiter is just looking at your information as it comes through a system, and they're making a decision off of a job description that they have some information, but not a whole lot of information. So they're making their basis off of what the hiring team wants. But as you build relationships with people on LinkedIn and at virtual networking events, people can see, like, you can hear your story about your past and where you're trying to go, and they'll have some career empathy for you, and they can maybe help you navigate some of these challenges. We allow recruiters and headhunters to make the decisions that we're not qualified. And I think we need to expand our network a little bit more and build relationships with like-minded people or people who are already in roles that we're trying to get into, and ask them for that help. Going back to that help that we were talking about. If I want to be a solution architect and right now I'm only a DevOps engineer or I'm just a programmer, I need to be building relationships with people that have responsibilities and job titles that I am trying to acquire, because they can help me understand how to better tell the story of my past and help me get into my future. So that would be my advice. Did anybody else wanted to provide any additional advice?
Get creative, right? Because here's the thing, you don't always have to, even though you're, and I always go back to saying, you always hear me say a good recruiter, because there's some of them out there just don't.
Yeah, some of them are just reading a script and they're looking at skills and qualifications and they're making a decision.
If they've got a good relationship with this hiring manager, then they're smart enough to know that this person may not have all the skill sets, but there's something here that's attractive to them. They can take that back and have a conversation with that hiring manager and say, I think you need to consider this person and this is why, right? So it's all about the type of relationships they have with the hiring manager too. And if they are, like I said, if they're a smart, savvy recruiter, then they should be able to say, you know what, I think you need to consider this person, because at the end of the day, the pressure's going to come down on them to get the job filled. So they better get creative in how they find the candidate, the best candidate for the job, period.
And it's not just about the technical skills, it's about personality fit. It's about behavior fit. I've worked for Deloitte. I mean, some companies are not just looking at you as what's on paper. I think good recruiters really get to know their applicant, and they really get to know them as a human being and say, hey, does their personality fit for this organization and this culture, in addition to all the great things that you bring on paper with your experience and your education? we have to get out of the mindset that it's all about just our credentials. There's going to be other factors that come into play when they're choosing the right applicant for the next, role, or for just even.
Hey, let's keep it 100, right? Let's keep it 100. I mean, at the end of the day, it is about cultural fit, whether we choose to say it or not. Right. So, and that's real talk. But of course, they want the other skills to go along with that. But they're not going to know if you're a cultural fit until they bring you in and have that discussion.
Right.
So you got to get to that. You have to get to that space to see if it's going to be a match. Because if your resume is sharp, if your LinkedIn profile looks good, and they've talked to you on the phone, if they probably say, okay, we like her. Bringing you in for interviews is just to make sure that how they feel about you is solidified. Period.
So talking to the recruiter, you're going to have to make sure that you're selling you too, and not just your resume you. You're going to have to sell you. They need to feel your vibes through the phone screening. Phone screening is like it's like somebody asks you for your number. You may give your number out. Once you talk to him or her on the phone, you're going to say whether I'm going to go on a date with you or not. People are only going to go to the next level if they've proven themselves through the phone. Because see, people can't see you now because now we're doing phone screenings. You're going to have to be able to.
Phone screening is standard. That's been a standard practice for many, many years, right? So you got to get that down.
But some people can't even make it past that phase because they don't know how to navigate that challenge of selling themselves without somebody actually seeing them.
Yeah, that's true. But
sorry.
No, go ahead. But that's where you have to go especially with coaches, right? As our job as coaches, we should be helping, and I'm sure you all do it, helping the candidate to understand the process, right? And what that really means and what the preparation that comes along with that. And that's helping them to, and I always share, like, from a recruiter's mind, okay, I did the work for a very long time. It's like, share with them your experience as someone who was hiring people. I hired 326 people in 4 months for Walgreens. You see what I'm saying? That was not a small task. And it took me, and I had to hire people to help me do it. But when you're doing it to that intensity, you have to learn quickly how to cipher through certain things to get what you need in terms of skill sets. That's something that some people cannot even be taught to do. So you have to, I think as recruiters, sometimes we don't even we don't open our minds up enough to understand that we got to be creative in this market. This is a candidates market now. We got to get creative with how we're locking down these candidates for these roles.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add, this goes back to the thought leadership piece. I'm all about magnetizing. I don't chase nobody, right? So how are you standing out? So like even Tara and Kathy, where is your thought leadership, right? On LinkedIn, it's not just about the great kind of like profile, right? If a recruiter is looking at you, or sometimes some people in the industry may be reading, right, your work and articles, they're like, oh, I need to talk to her, right? I like the way she framed that, right? And people may reach out to you with opportunities. That's actually how I get hired a lot to do speaking engagements. Someone's like, I love that article, or I saw your picture when you were doing a talk here, right? So really start thinking about your thought leadership and getting in some of those industry publications. And often when you're starting out, like Kathy, you were like, how do I do this? Just start talking about what you're passionate about, right? So action is the precursor to clarity, and through clarity, right, or through action, we get more clarity. So sometimes it's just like, let me start writing or going on video and start sharing. And then you can see what's resonating with people, right? Send articles, right? Read the comments and see like, what are people asking? So I think sometimes it's the personal branding, which obviously go get Kanika's book, right? But also thinking about how does that contribute to your career? Because we may see this all the time on LinkedIn. We're like, oh, people have articles, but it's really not a common thing. Like, it's not a common thing for people to be sharing their thought leadership, writing for like guest posting, guest blogging. You may think you see a lot of videos, but it's really a small percentage of people who are doing video marketing, showing up live, or, putting that 5 to 10 minute video on LinkedIn. So also start to think about, just elevating yourself and standing out from the crowd, and how do you attract opportunities with that, because now people will start to, that elevates your value, right? And even then on your resume, you can put these as publications, right? Or, speaking of a blog, or here's where my thing was published, right? So once again, that helps you to stand out in so many ways.
I so agree with her. I mean, that's what all those sections are for LinkedIn, is be able to, like you said, showcase what you can do. All right, so we've got Tiffany Gibson. she says, with marketing, I have a website and do career coaching, but I didn't want to advertise this on my LinkedIn page as of concern of what my employer would have to say about my other business. Any advice on if it's best to create a separate page or use a main LinkedIn page?
I'll speak to the piece just around the concern for the employer. I think, again, we can split this into two pieces. One, what is the actual policy? So is it illegal, quote unquote, at your company to have other businesses and things like that? Do you have to go through a compliance process for approval? If the answer is yes, then do what you need to do, cross your T's, dot your I's, etc. If it's that, no, we don't allow that because of X, Y, and Z, and it's a conflict of interest in what you do, then I think the answer is clear there. But I want to make sure when people ask me this question that you're making a decision not based on fear. Who cares if people don't like it? Who cares if people, like, to me, that's different from I'm not allowed to because I'm a compliance coach and I do compliance work. You know, that's different, conflict of interest, but I could care less. Every company that I've worked for over the years, they know that I have a business. They know that it's thriving. They know I'm all over these internet streets, that I do speaking engagements. It doesn't interfere with what you do. If you don't like it, don't hire me. You're the one who reached out to me because, like Connie, I get chased. I don't chase. And so if not, then fine. So get to the core of it. Are you scared because, oh, they're going to think this, I don't want to put that's one thing. And you need to get through that and move past that as a business owner. And then, but if it's something else, like this is the policy, then make sure you follow that protocol.
Yeah, and then if it's something, look at the policy too, because if you have a brand, existing brand you have a lot of visibility with that brand, you definitely need to have that conversation during the interview process. And so that way you can determine if it's going to be, like you said, conflict of interest, or if they're like, okay, since you already have an existing brand prior to coming with us, we're fine with that, but you can't come on and develop a new brand, right? Because some people, they're like, okay, it was existing before us, we're okay. And then they're saying you can't create something new while you're working for us. So yeah, you definitely need to know what those policies are for sure, just kind of piggybacking off of what Dorian said.
And get smart, like start a company page. Like it's like my LinkedIn may be, okay, hypothetically, like your LinkedIn is your business stuff. And then I have a Black Woman CEO page, right? Then I can brand under that. I can brand under my website. And I mean, I always suggest people put their face on there about me. I think a number of Black people think, oh, if I don't show myself, it will, I won't get white clients, or I will get white clients. Like, be authentic and just show up, right, as yourself. But you can also brand on your company. So I'm not saying this is a way to get around compliance. You still want to make sure, like, if it's a non-compete or if it's a totally separate business. Like for me, I'm like, ain't none of your business, like what I do outside of work, right? Just make sure you're not doing your business at work, because then that can cause issues. But you can, instead of maybe having it under your name, you can put it under your brand name, and your articles are coming up there, your website, right? And to me, it's none of their business, honestly, how I make my money and what I do outside of work. That's how I feel.
Yeah. So, I mean, it definitely can be a slippery slope for some, right? There's a lot of organizations who have the side hustle clauses in their policies and procedures. A lot of them go through those policies and procedures during the new hire orientation, and they talk about that. So you definitely have to be mindful of that. And you do have some, and I've heard the horror stories of some of the women in BCWN, where you have employees who are out there and kind of surfing and searching for their content to see what they're saying and what they're doing outside of work, unfortunately, right? So again, you do have to be mindful of who you're working for and who's looking, because again, with people on social media, they're going to find you anyway. Me being HR, I still work in the business and do BCWN. I have a ton of visibility on the side of BCWN. And I have people who find me all the time from HR. I was like, I didn't know you did both. Yes, I do. So you just have to stand firm in that, the truth of that, and be transparent and make sure that wherever you decide to go work, that's probably the first thing that needs to come out of the conversation, and be clear about that. Specifically, if this is the work that you do not want to give up doing, right?
Sherry, you said, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, I just said to say, if it's work that fulfills you, because we can get paid to do a job, and then we have other work that really fulfills us, which creates a balance, right? For some people. And if you know that work fulfills you and you like, okay, I want to work too, you may have financial goals. Who knows what your personal reasons are for wanting to do both? But you better make sure that you prepare for what that can be, how it can turn out for you.
Right. Yeah, you said something key too. I mean, I'll be honest with y'all. Like when I started my business in 2015, so my business started as a hobby. I just started helping friends and classmates in my stores, and then it just continued to grow from there. So I said, okay, well, I can start making some money from it. And it was a side hustle. And then I was like, oh, I can actually do this full time. But I started my business the same year that I actually transitioned into recruiting. And about 2 years after, about actually a year and a half after working there, they found out about my business. And I remember when my boss was like, oh, okay, you got to come in my office. We got to talk about this. Like, what's going on? I'm like, yeah, this is what I do. Like, what's good? And they ended up like taking it up the chains or whatever. I had a conversation with the chief people officer, and her whole thing was, we just want to make sure there's no conflicts of interest. Like that's what they always say. And as long as you're not working on it, you know, as long as you're not working on it during work. And these are things that I knew, but I was like, okay, cool. I had built up such a good brand and reputation. They would have been dumb to let me go. And I think that they realized that. But one thing that became very clear to me that day was, if I have to lose my job, like or if I ever have to choose between that job and my business, I'm going to bet on myself.
Right.
And that happened about 6 months prior to me leaving corporate. And I'm very thankful that they found out, because I felt like, wow, like I just felt more full. Like I didn't have to hide or pretend like I was living double lives. I'm glad that they found out. It gave me the courage that I needed to be able to step out on my own, because that was the first time that I fully considered that. And I ended up leaving because my growth was being stunted at my organization. Despite me asking for more and more and more, I realized I could make more of an impact out on my own. And so I ended up quitting. And that, honestly, when they found out, was the best thing that happened to me.
And that's a good point you make, Letitia, is that, you know, you, at some point, if you're doing this, you need to be prepared for the conversation, right? You need to be prepared for being called into the office. And how are you going to have this conversation? And again, and being prepared for if you do eventually at some point have to choose, you know? And I think when you go down that path, you need to think of it as eventually at some point it will happen. You know, it happened to me too, Letitia. You know, when I left HR, I went into doing career coaching for a nonprofit. Then I went and started doing it for a college. And as I get to the college, I started gaining momentum with BCWM when I was at the college. And then my boss pulled me into the office and was like, is this you? So she had received like a tweet from a career conversation video I had did with someone. And I was like, yeah, that's me. She said, why you didn't tell me you was doing this? I said, because I'm keeping things separate. And she's like, oh, so you think you're a guru now? And I said, well, you know what? I am a guru. I've been doing this work longer than you were born. You know what I'm saying?
I'm like, what's the problem?
You know what I'm saying? I'm keeping it separate, you know, all that. So I mean, and I say that to say that, okay, I knew eventually at some point I was like, okay, I know I'm gonna have this conversation eventually. Because when people at the college were like, yeah, Miss Sherry, we saw your video last night, you know, on BCWN. And, you know, so it was starting to be unavoidable. So I knew that eventually I was having the conversation. What I wasn't prepared for was her attitude, right? So again, you know, you just have to just kind of, you need to be prepared for it, you know. And then when she quit, she tried to take me down with her. And I was like, no, that's not happening. You know what I mean? So,
I mean, I think sometimes you'll be so good at what you do that a smart organization will utilize that and say, wow, she's passionate about speaking. She's passionate about giving talks. She's passionate about developing websites and presentations. Maybe let me kind of shift some of that over into the workplace. I think a smart leader would say, wow, Kanika is a brand. She wrote a whole book with entrepreneur. Maybe she can write some white papers for the organization. Maybe
right.
She can write an ebook for the organization. But then that tells you a lot about the organization, because when they start to compete with your little business, then you got to wonder, what are you really dealing with? You know, so I think some organizations, like going back to what we talked about, thought leadership, a lot of people would find it as competition, and some companies will find it as, oh, okay, I didn't know that you had all these great talents and gifts because I haven't been asking or tapping into that passion. So let me bring it to work so we can benefit the organization.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of called being an intrapreneur.
Yeah.
Use those entrepreneurial skills in your job. But one thing I just want to quickly say, protect your intellectual property. So if you're writing something for your job, you can say, I own the publishing rights, or, and one thing you can talk to an attorney, you can go to score.org, get a free attorney and say, hey, my job wants me to start doing this. What do I do so that I still have the rights to this? Or, like one of my clients built out an app, but like she did it under her company and licensed it to her business, her company that she's with, her job. So she licensed it through her, like her side hustle company, her consulting, but then she licensed it to the actual job that's paying her a salary. So once again, score.org is really great because you can get a free mentor. And so you can tell them like, hey, I'm interested in intellectual property. You can get a free mentor and they can help you, guide you through these scenarios on what to do, but please protect your intellectual property when you're doing this. And it's great to be an entrepreneur. It actually elevates them. Some jobs are like, I love that you're doing speaking. Just make sure you say, I'm an employee at so-and-so, because it elevates them.
That's true, though. They do. Like, as long as you plugged in, they good. That's true. That is so, she's so right about that.
I'll write it in the chat, score.org. So sometimes it's, we create all this, once again, like I talk about the psychology, we create all this anxiety and the scenarios, and just sometimes your confidence helps people to be like, okay, good, right? No one has to give you permission, right? So when you walking in the door, I think, I forgot who it was, and I want to put it in the chat, like walking like a boss. I think they were talking about that from negotiations. When you have confidence, it shifts sometimes the whole conversation, and it elevates you once again. And people are like, okay, like they're not going to even ask you a question because you're like, well, this is what I'm doing. Here's how it benefits you. Here's how it benefits me, or it's not in this. So you can definitely get ahead, but confidence is such a big thing. It can totally shift the energy and what people say and all these things around you. So, be confident, y'all. And then once again, protect your intellectual property.
Protect it. Last two questions. I want to thank the viewers who've been riding with us for 3 hours this week. This has been a great conversation. Last two questions. Monica Worthen, she really is asking about should she invest in a career coach to assist her along the way, and I'm going to say yes to that. So absolutely. And again, like Kanika said, you have, like Nicole said, you have a lot of career coaches that you have access to. Just decide on which one is the best one, to fit what you need. So I'll go ahead to that. And then the last question is from an anonymous attendee who's asking, like, a series like this would you be willing to do a series like this for recent college graduates who like to transition into the corporate world? And of course, our answer is going to be yes. Why would we not? Why would we say no to that? Right? So I want to go ahead and wrap it up because it is past our bedtime. We all sleepy. I'm sleepy. I know you guys are sleepy too. So I want to go ahead and Marcia says, yes, protecting your intellectual property is key, whether you are an employee or an entrepreneur. All your documents should be protected. That is so true. Thank you for that, Marcia. Okay, so I did the same thing, you guys, with the first group. I'm going to do this for you guys to wrap it up. I'm going to ask you guys about, so I have this thing called Career Smarts 365, which is something that I do within our, for us. So it's really something that, people always talk about being street smart. So my thing is talking about being career smart. So I'd like for you guys to give one smart tip to close it out and then let people know where they can find you on social media. Dorianne, we'll start with you.
Sure. My one smart tip would be to...
Oh, is her mute button on?
Nope, I turned it off.
Can
you hear me?
Yes.
My one smart tip would be to actually implement the strategies that we have here today. I think, I forgot the research, but it's like 90-something% of people who sit through trainings just write down a lot of notes and they get happy and they do absolutely nothing with it. So I think the people that get the success and get to those next level actually implement. So I would think about doing that. As far as where you can find me, my website is yourcareergirl.com, and I'm Your Career Girl everywhere on the internet. I'd love to connect with you all on LinkedIn, Dorianne St. Fleur, and that's it.
All right, Nicole?
Let me unmute myself. So my final tip is to be the CEO of your career. All too often, folks are looking to pursue that role in other organizations, but you can do that with your own career, meaning take ownership of your career. make the decision that your career is yours and you take full responsibility for it. So don't rely on anyone else to figure out what is best for you. Be intentional about what it is that you want to do, create your plan, do your research, and work that plan. And how to find me? nkwebgroup.com. So that's with 2 B's, nkwebgroup.com on Twitter, Instagram, and on LinkedIn. You can find me under Nicole K. Webb.
All right, Miss Letitia.
All right. You never stop working on your career. It's a never ending journey. You know, I think that we sometimes maybe get a little frustrated because we're not where we want to be, and just understand that you have to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. If you're feeling a little bit of discomfort, little unsure about the next steps, that's probably a good thing, because you're pushing yourself into a new territory and you know that you deserve more. So that's mine. Where you can find me, Twitter and Instagram, Letitia_Bird. You can find me on LinkedIn and letitiabird.com. But if you follow me on Twitter, I have no filter and I'm calling companies out. So just be mindful of that.
All right, Quanisha. And she do tell you her Twitter is fire. Okay, you guys, it is for real.
Thank you.
So what I would like to everyone to leave you with is invest in yourself through investing in other people. Like I said, that strong Black woman syndrome will have us, reading books and going to free webinars and trying to figure this out the hard way and to do it ourselves, instead of investing in support, right? And this works for career or business. Investing in support, getting an easy and simple process, right? Working with a mentor who can tell you, look, I made all these mistakes, so this is how you don't have to make them. Or literally, here's my 6 steps to building a kick butt LinkedIn profile, right? So investing in yourself through other people. And that's why I said it's in yourself. Sometimes you're like, oh, I'm giving this person my money. 1, it's an investment. 2, it's in yourself. And the one thing no one can ever take away from you are your skills, right? So get the fast lane, work with somebody, and they customize it to you, right? And what you need. So invest in yourself through investing in other people. And would love to connect with you and have you join our community. You can go to blackwomenceo.com. That's Black Women with an A, CEO.com. And we do lots of trainings, resources. Actually, when you join, you'll get our the profit roadmap, right? 5 essential steps to, why can't I remember my thing name? Oh, to building a revenue generating business. Like Sharice said, it's late. I'm like, my brain is, yes, 5 essential steps to building a revenue generating business. So you'll get that link to that when you join. And the membership is free when you join Black Women CEO. But invest in yourself through investing in other people, right?
All right, thank you, Quanisha. Miss Kanika.
Okay, my last tip is going to be build your brand by dating jobs. I think it's so important for us to create these unique professional experiences by having various different types of jobs. If a job isn't treating you right, you need to dump that toxic job. You need to always figure out what's in it for you. So many people are staying in jobs for 10, 15 years. The relationship been over. It been over. Yeah. And a lot of us are using this, we should be using this time to figure out what organization is a good fit. We need to be doing think about some fearless resignations, doing some really some deep searching and asking ourselves during this time, do I need to be in a relationship with this job anymore? And if I do, that's fine, and figure out what's more that you can get out of that job. But if the relationship is kind of over, they're not promoting you, you're not getting what you need out of that, you need to start making a list of the things that you want and start to go after those things. And always remember what's in it for you. For 40 hours a week, they know what they're getting out of you. What are you getting out of that relationship? Because it's always important that we don't forget what's in it for us. We pour our heart into these organizations and they're making millions of dollars and we are not really gaining any value from it. And you guys can find me on Twitter at Connie Catawba, Instagram, Connie Catawba, all my LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, everything is at Connie Catawba. You can order the book Career Rehab on Amazon. And you can also reach out to me through ConnieCatawba.com. I will drop the link in the chat. And, I just wish you guys so many amazing blessings through this time that we're going in. And I thank you, Sherry, and all the wonderful women here on this panel. This was an amazing 3 hours.
Yes, thank you, ladies.
We broke the record from
Come
last
on up now. Yes, thank you, Sherry. Thank you.
Sometimes we don't get a chance this often to have just a straight organic conversation. And this is exactly what this is, where women can really get their questions answered. It's like, oh, we got 60 minutes to try to get it all in, you know? And so I know this doesn't happen often, but this stuff, to me, times like this are priceless when you're able to have these really genuine, open conversations. So my career smart tip before we wrap up is to know your professional self, know who you are, right? If you don't understand what your deal breakers are, or your hell no's, or what you stand for, what you value, knowing your workplace personality, what environment is works best. If you don't understand all those things about yourself, you are going to struggle, and you may end up making some poor decisions when it comes to your career. So just be clear about who you are and who you stand, what you stand for when it comes to yourself, your career, and even being in the workplace. So you can find me on Instagram at I am Sherry Sims, and also on Twitter, and then on Facebook is Sherry Sims. You can also find us at BCW Network on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And then you can also go to, please become a member of Black Career Women's Network at bcwnetwork.com, and join our free online community, because that's where the download is going to be, or the replay for this is going to be, is in our online community at community.bcwnetwork.com is where that's going to be. We also have yes, assessments is a good way, Cornisha, and we have actually a group of assessments that we have with Cloverleaf that we partner with, where you can take those assessments to really get to know who you are as a professional, and we work with you to help you define your professional identity. So if you want to refresh, get to know, give us a call, book an appointment, we'll work with you on that. Thank you, ladies. This has been fire. I loved it. You guys have been amazing. I thank you all so much for being a part of this. Now, for those of you who don't know, you're going to be able to find them on social media, but they're also going to be a part of our Ask a Mentors list of group of coaches that we have on our website, that you can check out their profile. You can send them, reach out to them and see if you want to work with them. That's what they're here for, is to support all of you, each of you. So I want to leave you with this one quote that I share with everyone that's in my network, and some of you have probably heard me say this before, which is, the life God gave you is larger than the life you've been living. Which means God gives us all special gifts and talents, and it's our job to discover what those are and to use those to work in our purpose, okay? That's how we're supposed to make our money. He gives us these talents so we can get paid, okay, for using them. So learn what those are. Look at Queen, my money. I want to thank you guys tonight. Thank you guys for hanging in there with us at 10:15 Eastern Standard Time is when we're closing out. Thank you guys so much. You guys have been an amazing panel. Stay in touch. I follow all you guys. Oh, Dorian's Instagram, fire. That's all I'm gonna say. Instagram is like flawless, okay? So I love it. So yeah, check them out, you guys. Well, we'll go ahead and let you guys go. Have a great night, everyone. I hope you have a good rest of your work week, and we'll talk to you soon. Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry.
You're welcome, you guys. You guys have a good night. You guys.
Thank you, Sherry. What's up, Miss Bird?
Hey, Kanika.
That's my Twitter friend.
I know. We need to do a connect offline.